Hello and welcome to the Nerds at Large 2018 in review, I guess. I haven't thought of a name for it. I am one of your hosts, Darby Hallman, joined by three different people.
I am Jeff Mayo.
Passing the microphone. I'm Jacob Hamill.
I'm Will Outlaw.
The whole gang is here, and yeah, me and Jeff are sharing a microphone, so we'll see how annoying this ends up being, but like, I do not want to go back to the Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Can't go back.
I can't go back. You can't go back.
Once you know how much better it is.
Yeah, you can't. Well, gentlemen, we are going to talk about 2018 for gaming, which I think was probably one of the best years I can remember, at least in my lifetime for gaming. It's definitely up there, I think, for me.
I think what's interesting is that, you know, usually we have like a great year in games, and then it's kind of, you know, 1 or 2 years that are kind of a lull.
Right.
And this one, I felt like 2017 was a really good year, and then 2018 was also an equally great year. And it looks like 2019 is going to be pretty solid,
at least
too.
from this first quarter with Sekiro and
Kingdom Hearts, Resident Evil 2. No, we're at the point, no more bad years, people.
Yeah, it seems like a really consistent.
You're not allowed to
high,
have
yeah.
any bad
Yes.
years.
Okay, maybe the first, after new consoles, the first year could be a little slow.
2014 was not exciting.
Yeah.
Might be at a
as I
20 point,
remember.
who knows?
I mean, Dragon Age won Game of the Year, so.
exactly. But honestly, I mean, the Switch launch was amazing, partially because it had to be. It like absolutely had to be. But I don't know. I mean, we might even be past launch years being bad. I mean, we'll see whenever PS5, and I refuse to call it Xbox 2. That's the dumbest thing.
Go
comes
back to
out.
the 720, man.
Yeah. Do what should have been done all along. Well, I mean, so in general, y'all agree 2018 was pretty freaking sweet.
It's a pretty good
For
year.
like, yeah. I mean, it obviously wasn't great for everyone. Bethesda had a pretty bad year.
Right, yeah.
Yikes.
Was the Star Wars thing? That's 2019 now. That's in 2019. The EA has a bad year, but it's still just. I mean, like now it just got canceled. This cancellation is in 2019 now, but. Yeah, and that was 2017. Anyway, there was some bad things, but between like God of War, Red Dead, and Celeste, even the indies like Celeste and Smash Bros. The fact that we got what me and Jeff are probably going to consider the best Smash Bros. Of all time in this year.
Well, it should be.
It's pretty sweet.
Has everything.
Yeah, it's the ultimate one. It should be. It absolutely should be. Well, how this is going to work is we have a bunch of different categories. Most of them are the same as we had last year, which is also weird that this is our second one of these. We've been doing this a long time. But we're going to go through a bunch of categories, say what our favorite thing was of that in this year, and then we're going to get to our top 10 games of 2018. And we're going to have some awesome discussions, and I'm pretty excited.
For those of us that played more than 3 games in 2018.
Will, just feel free to talk about all the games you play. Even if I played this game from 1997, it was great.
Seriously, though.
Have you guys heard of Ocarina of Time? Pretty sweet.
It's so good, guys. You had no idea.
Super Mario Brothers 2.
Little unknown game.
Very small game. All right, well, I guess we'll get started. The top of my list here is best gaming moment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I will get started. Right off the bat, my best gaming moment is something that I'm not really going to talk about here because it's a Red Dead spoiler, and I do not want to spoil it for you guys. But Jeff can probably guess what it is. It's like the ending of a side quest that I think is very, very important. That was very deeply passionate and everything. But my second runner-up that I actually will talk about because everyone in here played God of War. So if you haven't played God of War, brief spoilers, just if you worry about spoilers, just skip ahead a few seconds. Okay. Whenever you get the Chaos Blade or whatever, I already forgot what they're called now. I probably should. The Blades of Chaos. Because I felt like, did y'all play the old God of War games? I know y'all didn't. Okay, yeah, no one did. I mean, I played all of them. Obviously, I never really cared about the story that much, and I didn't expect, when that moment, if you had told me that moment was coming, I wouldn't have expected it to really impact me that much because I like the old God of War games, but I never cared that much about those. But that the build up to it, and then when you go in there and he opens up the chest and the Blades of Chaos are there, and you're like, oh, this is awesome, and then you immediately start using them, and then after that you're like, oh wait, no, this is just part of the game. This is not just a hype moment. This is like a game changing thing. Like that whole section, I just had like goosebumps,
And
and it was like adrenaline going.
Even after that, it wasn't until like maybe an hour later into the game where I was like, oh wait, you can like upgrade these too. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was sweet.
It was great for me too, because like I felt that the axe wasn't really great at dealing with groups of enemies, and it felt like the game was throwing more and more of those at you, and finally to feel that feeling of finally swinging those like in like a whole circle around you and cleaning up. Tearing it up, it felt really great.
And that's what, like, I don't have any examples immediately at hand, but I feel like games have introduced something like this, like, partway through the game, and it's a cool thing, but then you just basically end up using your basic stuff because it works. Like you said, that was not the case in this game. You needed those for certain enemies. Like, it was something you ended up, like, switching back and forth all the way to the end of the game. I was still
really
swapping back and forth, and just the reveal of that was something crazy to me.
I think the power of that moment is that, one, I didn't play those old games, so I didn't have that connection, and two, I was actually spoiled that you would have them at some point. And even in that moment, I was still like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Yeah, I was too. I knew that they were coming, but just the feel of them was so satisfying.
Yeah, feel free to grab this one, everyone. We'll have to learn, Jeff. We'll have to learn how this works.
Luckily, I was not spoiled on it.
That's very good. Yeah, I wasn't either. I mean, I kind of, like, as we were building up to that and you were going back to the house, I kind of had a feeling that might be coming, and still.
It was Conan. Conan spoiled it for me. I was watching his gaming thing.
That sucks.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
luckily I heard about that afterwards.
I do that a lot.
I was like, what in the world?
Well,
Not cool, man.
That is mine. Jeffrey, what is yours?
Okay, yeah, for all these things, I have a runner-up or two that I'll mention. Probably won't go into much detail. Run-up is also from God of War. It's just finishing the journey. Yeah. Just, you going through it. Atreus grows, Kratos grows, all that kind of fun stuff. At the end, I guess God of War spoilers, you spread the mother's ashes for out there, and then you have the whole thing of you seeing from the cave paintings or whatever that... Mm-hmm. The mother planned this the whole time. You hear Atreus' true name, all kind of stuff. You get the hint of what's potentially going to be the fate of Atreus and Kratos in future games. And it just makes you more excited for more. My favorite moment of the year is getting to the top of Celeste Mountain in Celeste. I think it was just a great moment because through all the trials, whether it be from Madeline's perspective of her... growing and figuring out herself and, well, just the trials of you as the player of going through all the obstacles and going up the mountain and all that. And just that whole last level of you going through pretty much, I guess, an abridged version of the whole mountain again. Mm-hmm. It was just great. Good times.
I like how the moment when you get to the summit, it's very like low key. Like it's not. Yeah. There's not like a huge fanfare. She kind of just goes up there and sits and looks out, and it's very. Kind of sad but happy in a sort of way.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of like fits with the whole theme of the game of like going up to the top of this mountain is not some miraculous thing that just fixes you. You don't get to the top because she's dealing with a lot of depression, anxiety, and different things, and it's not one of those things. Oh, you do this thing and you're miraculously saved. It's something that she did herself. It's something that like the trials of getting there, and like when you get to the top of the mountain, it's just the top of a mountain, but it represents something more because of how much work you did there, not necessarily because there's something magical about the summit of the mountain. And I think they definitely portrayed that in an awesome way. That's definitely one of my runner-ups, dude. That was definitely in consideration. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. All right. So some of the ones that I want to talk about are spoilery, and like I'm not going to spoil them.
I think we're going to have timestamps for this, right? Yeah. I can go in there and like mark when there's spoilers.
Well, one of the games is the missing J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, which only Jeff has played, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys. Right. So the ending to that. Another one. Has anyone played Return of the Obra Dinn?
Really want to. I really want
to. So I would say the first part of Chapter 8. There's a thing where you're kind of looking around. And then you see something, and it kind of just changes your whole perception of what this story is about. Okay. It's really, really amazing. But the one that I do want to talk about is beating the final level in Tetris Effect.
Ah.
So that if you're not a really familiar or you're not really good at Tetris, like that final level, you have to clear 90 lines. The other ones are 30.
Yeah.
And it's
Nope.
It's really, I had to take several, stabs at it to finally get it, but just finally finishing it and like getting to those credits and just the music and all that, you just kind of feel so satisfied and like kind of tingly and just like your soul just kind of like left your body and you're kind of seeing all these beautiful images and these feelings of like.
You played in VR?
Or no? No, I didn't. But still, like it still has a very powerful effect on you. And like for me, again, like I tried it like 3 times, and on my 4th attempt, like I almost topped out, and then I finally got that final line. It was so satisfying.
Yeah, it's awesome that they turned Tetris into something that people talk about. It's like, and I got it, and then the lights went out,
like,
and then it was like, no, this is like,
experience.
That's really cool. And that's I think we talked about it in the podcast. Maybe we didn't, but we put my brother-in-law in Tetris in effect, and he just completely zoned out. Like we were talking to him, he just completely didn't even hear us, and he got out, and he was just like, "Yeah, that was really nice. Like I want to go back in there." He's just like, "That was peaceful."
Yeah, I guess for context, it was in VR.
Yeah, that's like the one like VR optional game that I do want to try experience in VR.
That's how
well, yeah, whenever you come over and I have it, try it out.
Get the zone out.
Yeah,
it sounds really cool. But yeah, that's my.
We'll throw a party where like Jacob's just in the corner, Tetris effect for 3 hours,
smoking pot, playing Tetris,
and then we have Smash on the TV while he's in VR because he doesn't need the TV for that.
Yeah,
that's true. We could do that.
But yeah, that's my favorite gaming moment of 2018 is beating the Metamorphosis level in Tetris.
Cool. Nice. Well, it seems like God of War is just full of great moments.
Oh, absolutely.
Mine is also God of War.
It absolutely is.
Mine is the part where you realize that Midgard isn't the entire map. And you're going to these, completely different realms the entire game. I think because, you see the map at the beginning. You're like, okay, this doesn't look very big. Like, what am I going to do in this world for so long? And, that moment when you travel, what's the first realm?
Midgard? No, the first realm.
After that.
After
the fairies.
Yeah, the elf.
It starts with an A, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Alfheim?
Alfheim, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that moment of going into that map and you're like, oh, geez. Okay.
And it looks completely different.
Yeah, completely different world. Really big, too. Surprisingly big. And, realizing that that game's a lot larger than you initially think. So
yeah.
That's my moment.
That was like similar to, I think my best gaming moment last year was obviously getting off the Great Plateau and Breath of the Wild, and that was kind of like that.
What was really impressive to me about that whole transition was that I knew there was other realms in the game, but I thought that they would just be kind of like, palette swaps of Midgard, but no, they're completely different maps, which was really impressive.
And it's very exciting for God of War 2 or whatever, because there was, like you went the whole game like, oh, I'm going to go to Asgard. It's going to be crazy. And it's like, oh, no. but it's exciting. It's exciting for that character, that thing to look forward to.
Yeah, to be fair, like Niflheim and Helheim were far less impressive than Alfheim, but it was still just an incredible moment knowing that there were these other places.
Helheim was pretty freaky, though. I mean, it was just like, weird and demonic looking.
It just wasn't like the story type of mission,
and just like especially in that lake in Alfheim and like the purple sky and everything, it was just like it was stunning. It was great. All right, it's back over to me.
Favorite story narrative. It's boring. You could probably predict it from me. It's Red Dead Redemption 2, and surprisingly to me, it's not even close. And like that's crazy because God of War's story is awesome, but something about like spending the amount of time you do in Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's something that kind of unfairly has over other things, is that just the sheer amount of time you spend with these characters, just you develop such a relationship with that whole gang. And over like an 80-hour thing I did, you get to see how the gang is like all together, and like they're doing bad things, but they also like kind of have a moral code, and there's this camaraderie, and to see that like slowly deteriorate and come back and then deteriorate again, and just so many different changes over that. And Arthur Morgan, who I honestly, even though I was excited for Red Dead Redemption 2, I went in expecting him to kind of just be a kind of throwaway generic cowboy man, and
now that I've watched his whole progression, I honestly think he's one of the most compelling characters I've ever seen because
Spoilers, Darby, for your
potential spoilers.
Potential spoilers.
It's just like that journey was incredible, and it like took me so much like more than I thought it would, and I did think I was gonna like it, but it was, I mean, like it was special. It was something truly special for me, and I get how other people, it takes a long time to get for all the things to move,
Right.
But it's weird. It's a game that I wouldn't want it to be a second shorter than it is because I feel like it needs that. It needs all that time you spend. You know.
Does he stand out from John Marston at all?
I think so much.
So much. Okay.
I mean, honestly, like
It's kind of a big part of the game, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their contrast.
Yeah, and John is a very, very big part of the game. Like much
Right,
bigger
right.
than you would probably expect. I mean, I don't think that's too much of a spoiler to say.
No.
I mean, he's in the gang, and like their relationship. I mean, like I think Arthur makes John a better character. Like now, if I go
Okay.
play Red Dead Redemption, I'm gonna feel like that's what I love. This game is such like, and when I started it, I honestly didn't think I was like, this feels a good bit different than Red Dead, and even some of the storytelling seems different. But by the end, this is such a good companion piece for it, and I'm kind of jealous of Jeff who gets to play this and then Red Dead.
So it retroactively makes Red Dead Redemption
I
better.
think so. I
Cool, that's
absolutely
awesome.
think so. And I'm really like, I know you were saying that like I really hope you give it a shot because
I do.
I feel like you would. I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm like thinking wrong, but I feel like you would get into eventually the slower pace of it and like learn to appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it is something you have to get used to, and you have to like understand this is what they're going for, and I need to just like,
Yeah.
you know, cozy in with this game. And yeah, it's awesome. Yep.
Okay, got a couple runner-ups. I got God of War and Celeste on there. Won't say much more about those. It's kind of, I just then be echoing why they were my top two for best gaming moments, since my things were the endings for those. But the main runner-up I have is The Missing. Like Jake says, I'm not gonna really get spoiled because spoiling it would kind of ruin it for people who didn't play it, so I won't do that. But the characters are so good. JJ in particular is just a really good character. They do a good job of fleshing out her and her friends, whatever, through the text messages and everything, and figuring out what exactly is going on in JJ's life. And honestly, again, I'm not gonna get into the spoilers. This is probably the most important story in a game for this
Yeah.
year.
I'll hop in because The Missing is also my favorite story. And we can like talk back and forth
Yeah.
about it.
happens, feel free to just go.
Yeah, because like the story in this game is so just heartfelt and genuine. Like it's really like you just feel so much compassion, I think, coming from the writing, from Swery, for the characters, for like the problems that the character is dealing with. It's really just like it feels so empowering and like heartfelt that I absolutely love it. And again, this is an LGBT story, and it again like that those themes aren't just there for the sake of just being there. The character is not like, hey, I'm part of the I am queer just for the sake of being queer. That the character is more than that, and their identity does play a role in the problems and the plot of the game, but again, they are more than just that identity, which I think is incredibly important for characters like that.
I agree, and it's awesome that we got this kind of story in a video game, much less a story that's made from, I guess, a middle-aged Japanese man.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. And, I read somewhere that he actually consulted with a lot of people in making this game, which is like, yeah, definitely. Like, if you're going to tell this type of story, talk to those people, who have had that experience before. So, yeah, definitely The Missing, fantastic story.
Indeed. And my main one, okay, same as Darby, Red Dead.
This was so shocking to me because like halfway through the year, I didn't even think Jeff was going to play this game.
No, that's just a crazy thing, and I destroy the whole, I guess, thing with people say like Red Dead because they're Rockstar fanboys or whatever. I have no love for Rockstar before. This is technically the first Rockstar game I really sunk my teeth into, and I loved it. So I destroy that narrative. But yeah, just like Darby said, you spend so much time with characters, you gotta love them. Arthur Morgan's a great character, and I think what helps it with it is I love the slow pace, and I'll bring that up more later. lets you really just sink in and feel like you're living in the world, and it helps with the side quests and you just going around finding random side quests and stuff. I consider that just part of the overall narrative of the world, and I think it's just really good. Darby echoed a lot of my stuff, so what I was thinking, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it.
It's kind of crazy how divisive this game is, because you'll go to other people and you'll hear like the complete opposite thing, and I understand.
It's like one of the worst games of the year, all that crap.
Jeez.
I understand it not being for everyone, but I'm glad Jeff liked it. All right.
No, I mean, I'm gonna have a lot of God of War on my list because I do love that game. So
it deserves it.
That is certainly my favorite narrative. Maybe one of my favorite stories of all time. Really, I think the fatherhood aspect was really interesting to me. You don't see many games really pick up on that as much. Last of Us, I guess, was the closest thing to that. But this story was even stronger for me for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. Just the whole aspect of going to the ends of the earth, literally, to, sprinkle this boy's ashes, or the boy's mother's ashes. Yeah, just showing that he would do anything for his son. The way their relationship grew over the 20-odd hours that you play the game was really special. Seeing him stop calling him boy for a second, start calling him by his name. I don't know, just stuff like that. Really little moments really spoke to me.
Yeah, the subtle storytelling they do in a lot of that. I mean, even the trailer moment we saw when you're reaching the hand and then he comes back. And then even there's funny moments in this that I didn't expect. Like whenever he like drinks the thing and burps or something. It's just like, I mean, it was just like, it felt like even in this weird like Norse mythology thing where you're fighting demons, it still kind of reminded you of spending time with your dad and stuff, and like growing up with that. And it was just it seemed like such a personal game. Yeah, like it was such a personal story.
And I mean, the point with Norse mythology too, how they weaved everything into the narrative was incredible. Like all the Easter eggs towards future events that they were able to do. It was really cool. I didn't play the other God of Wars, but I heard they kind of massacred Greek mythology in that, and I felt like this one was pretty true to what Norse mythology was,
both literally and figuratively.
Yes.
True. But that is one thing that I will always applaud God of War on. Is like this is one of the rare situations where I'm really glad it's not a reboot, because they actually kind of take the poor, like how bad of a character Kratos is in the other ones, and like turn that into part of his redemption and part of the arc in this, and it like makes those. I don't think it's something you need to go play those games to get that, but because I played those games, it was kind of cool. It was like almost like a narrative challenge. Like, we're going to keep the same Kratos, but make you love him. And it's like, how the hell are you going to do that? And they somehow did. It's like,
that was one of my favorite parts about this game, was just how they were able to take this outdated character and like update him without erasing his previous history.
And it's like very reflective of people who have been bad people in the past and grow up and kind of realize what they've done wrong. And it's there's just so many layers to this on top of amazing combat. Like God of War is again special. It's awesome. Where are we at?
Soundtrack.
Favorite soundtrack. Good lord, there's so many good ones this year. It's insane, and it's kind of insane that some like ones on here aren't my favorite one. Like, I mean, Red Dead's was phenomenal. God of War's was even really good. Celeste was one of my favorite soundtracks ever, probably. It's just, and especially like each like section having its own distinct sound, and like the soft moments of that game having, the music flowed with the game. And I feel like with both Red Dead and Celeste, the music flowed with what you're doing a lot better than my number one, but the Octopath Traveler soundtrack was just, it blew me away. Just from, you talk about every section of that map, which is very like sectioned off. There's the snow part, the like beach part, the whatever part, and every single one of them like had like a whole different like strew of instruments, and it was just like this amazing orchestral swell every time. And the art style, like mixing with the like old and new art style in there, it was like I never stopped being amazed every single time I like started that game of just how really like kind of stupidly good the music is. It just seemed they didn't even have to go that far.
Right. Okay.
And even though, like I said, I think Celeste, the music moves me more because like there's a emotional moment and the music swells
and
there.
It builds on itself.
Yeah, Octopath does that less, but just the music itself is just so strong.
The songwriting is just so good. Okay. On to Jeff.
Runner-ups, Octopath and Celeste for reasons Darby said, so won't hang on those. Number 1, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, don't at me.
Don't at me.
Cheating.
I don't care. You take most of the best music from a bunch of historic franchises, put in one game. How can it not be the best?
Okay, then that's my number 1. If we're counting Smash, it's my number 1, but I'm not counting Smash. But you go for it.
Hey, we just said best soundtrack score. That is a soundtrack. So, yeah. Enough said.
Nice. So I want to give shout outs to Donut County as well as Return of the Oberdin. They had great soundtracks, but my favorite was Tetris Effect. Besides like some of the songs being really, not just the vocal songs as well, some of the instrumental ones were really catchy and really moving. But the way that the music matches what you're doing in the game, like the visuals as well as rotating the blocks, that will make notes that match the music, the way lines drop and it lights up, and the music will swell and kick in depending on how fast the blocks are falling. Like there's one where I think it's called like Ritual Passion or something, and there's like a fire burning in the background, and as the music kind of ramps up, there's like dudes basically like worshiping the fire, and it's like going like at like line 10 speeds. It's like it's dropping like at a blink of an eye, and it's just so you really get into it, and the music pulls you into the kind of audio visual experience that this game was going for.
I agree. I haven't played that much Tetris Effect. I need to go and play more of it, but soundtrack, from what I've heard, is excellent.
Yeah, and I think my favorite would be like the Downtown Jazz one, because it gets really just crazy and fast, and like when you rotate the blocks, they're like piano notes, and so it's like almost like a guy's just kind of like smashing like a keyboard. It's really really great.
Well, I think mine is a little bit of a cheat, because while I do think the soundtrack was really, really great, I think how it was used that made it so special, and that's Spider-Man. How you're immediately, it's completely silent in Manhattan or whatever, and then as soon as you jump off a building and start swinging, the music swells, and it's just really incredible.
To be honest, that's up there with gaming moments, just in period of just the like swinging off of a building.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps the first time I did that too, because you just feel like, along with the traversal, just those two together. It's great.
Literally any moment it happens, it's like, oh my gosh, this is epic. Where am I going? Is this a full mission? But no, you can just be free swinging around, and it does that. So I really liked how it was integrated into the game, most of all. But I do like the score in general too.
I do. No, I think Spider-Man absolutely deserves a nod.
Oh, I forgot. Want to give a shout out to Beat Saber.
Always.
Yeah. My sister, we got her playing Beat Saber, and she'll just like walk through the hallway and say that we're playing Beat Saber. Those things get stuck in your head. It's great. Oh, it's me. I keep forgetting. Well, some of these we can kind of go by fast because I've already talked a lot about it. Favorite character, it's Arthur Morgan. For all the things that I listed before, it's just that character is going to stick with me so much when you talk about like a very morally gray, very real character that like you feel conflicted about because he's done horrible things and unforgivable things, right. But then he tries to make up for them, but he knows that he's not going to get full redemption. It's like there's so much there, and he's great.
Well, runner-ups, Madeline, Kratos, again, for reasons we already stated.
Right.
JJ from The Missing, of course, and yeah, same as Darby. I'm copying him a lot. Arthur Morgan for reasons he said. Not dive too deep into it. Yeah, it was just I had the same kind of fears of Darby going into it. I guess we can partly blame Rockstar's marketing, I guess, as far as this goes. Yeah. That he was going to be a very bland character, because when we saw he was before the game, he was nothing. But right. As you spend time, yeah, like Darby said, he's a very deep, morally gray character, and it is great.
Yeah. Do they kind of give a good reason as to why he's never talked about like before? I mean, obviously he's a new character, but like, did they give a reason as to why he would not be talked about in the previous game?
I will say that is maybe it's maybe a little weird that he was not mentioned at all in Red Dead 1.
Right.
Okay. I will say, like, I think it probably honestly is the case that Arthur Morgan didn't exist in their canon when they made Red Dead 1. But
Fair, yeah.
I do, like, I think they make up for it in just, like, after playing Red Dead 2, like, just in your canon going into it, you see his influence. You can, like, knowing what happens in Red Dead 1 and knowing those characters, you can 100% see Arthur's influence in that.
Okay.
Now. Like, even if they did it retroactively, you can see it. Like, he has a big impact on Red Dead 1, but it is maybe a little weird that there wasn't a single mention, you know.
Right. Okay.
I didn't know he wasn't mentioned in 1.
Oh, really?
Spoilers, he's not mentioned in 1.
Yeah, he was a new character entirely.
Yeah.
You played Red Dead 1 as well?
Yeah, I did. My favorite character would be J.J. Macfield, again, for reasons that we mentioned. I think she has a ton of great... there's a ton of great details that flesh out her character. Like, she's in college and she's studying, like, industrial design, and so you'll read text messages where she's kind of talking about her passion for what she's studying, and those are just small details that I think make her a really just fantastic character. A great LGBT character, and again... you know, her identity is, of course, important to the plot, but that is not all that she is.
Agree with everything.
Yeah.
I'm picking the dark horse here. I'm picking Mimir from God of War.
Oh, are you? That's awesome.
Yeah. Solely because I just loved his random dialogue bits during your missions, and I don't know, he was a really funny and wise character who... his stories while in the boat, just those little quips. I really liked him.
He was, and it could have gone so wrong.
Yeah,
It could have gone so.
He could have been
poorly,
so
yeah.
annoying.
Oh yeah.
But
No, I loved him. And it was one of the. I think we all had the story of where they like, sat in the boat waiting for him to finish his story because you were just so wrapped up in it. You just wanted to know.
Isn't his voice actor narrating the audiobook version of God of War?
I think
or
so.
something?
Yeah, I think he is.
Incredible.
I think I remember hearing about that. And they've done all those like things on Twitter where he's like reading people's tweets or something in
That's
Mimir's voice. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, Mimir was my favorite character from God of War as well.
It is so good. Yeah, I didn't mention any runner-up things for Kratos because I just assumed that's where we were going, but I like the Mimir choice more. Also, like, huge shout-out to Dutch. We're talking about non-protagonist Dutch is one of the best villains ever.
We just need one more score.
Alrighty, where are we?
Setting.
Favorite setting? I won't beat a dead horse much more. Because, I mean, like, there were so many good ones, and I think God of War is a very, very good runner-up because that world was incredible. But it was also part of the narrative was the world of Red Dead Redemption 2. And I just, the setting, how just absolutely huge that map is. I mean, you look at the map on the actual map, and it looks big, but you don't realize until you start riding across that thing, it's like, damn, this is gonna take me like a real world hour to get like across this just a straight line.
Turn on that cinematic camera and just hold down X. That's what I do.
But there's so much to do in those like times, and there's so much to look at, and just like when you go up to the snowy peaks and then go all the way down to what's basically New Orleans. It's Saint Denis, but it's basically New Orleans.
I went there for the first time.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like it's really, really cool how amazing all those different areas look. And honestly, I'm the type of gamer that I rarely remember the games that go for realism more than art style. I'm usually like, I remember the art style one so much more, but I feel like this is one that it was just like so ridiculously well made, and just they went for realism, but they also just went for like, I mean, there's diversity in landscapes and like just people living their everyday life, like the streets of Valentine, like you can see the mud tracks from like wagons going through it, and just everything just seems so lived in and real. And that's the product of millions and millions and millions of dollars and 8 years of development. Like it's like that's where that comes from. But
it seemed to me that Rockstar was able to really capture the cinematic qualities of a lot of the old Western movies. Yeah. I mean, you look at like, you know, a Sergio Leone like spaghetti western, and like, I mean, granted, those films were actually shot in Spain and not in the West, but like similar style of just look at this beautiful but also very lonely kind of desolate landscape. Yeah, really, kind of those films were able to convey the idea of just how isolated and lonely it was, kind of being out there, and it seems to me that the game does a similar.
And that's
feeling.
what I do love open worlds like that are a little like they are not in your face with things. And it's like, yeah, when you leave a town and you go to another town, you're like, yeah, you're completely in wilderness that we don't get to see here. Like it's cool to see like in America with it's just completely like there's overgrown stuff, there's like forest, trees, animals all over the place, and like it's a long trek to get to that next town, and you're dirty. You like, you're tired, your horse is complaining. It's good. There's like so many cool things in there. Yeah.
For my run-up, I have Red Dead, reasons Darby said. Other run-up is Erdrea from Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah.
I just love the whole fantasy medieval setting. I think it's done really well in this game, all the different kingdoms and all of that, the towns. I like how all of them seem to have their own little lore thing going on, and they're all look different and all beautiful and that kind of stuff. Of course, I love the art style. And my favorite one overall is God of Wars with Midgar and all the 9 realms. I just really like the whole mythology of it all, and the way, as we talked before, integrating that mythology into the world and the story, and all that stuff's done really well.
And my favorite is Midgar as well. For all the reasons that we stated before, just again visually gorgeous. The way that the worlds kind of stack on top of each other and play off of each other, really just great.
Yep,
fantastic.
As we mentioned, it's exciting. We have 3-4 realms we have not seen, but they hinted at you are going to this.
Asgard's going to be so cool. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I think mine would be Midgard as well. I think the really special thing about Midgard in particular is how it changes over the course of the game, with the water continuously lowering and finding new hidden valleys, hidden tracks that you can go to, and finding all. I remember, it took me forever. The Blades of Chaos, how you can, you can connect it to some of
those like red kind of
points.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing those around in Midgard forever, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with these? I was so annoyed. And then, it was just funny, like, seeing how it was very, I guess it was Metroidvania-esque, because that what people will talk about, when you have to go through the same area, and you're like, oh, okay, now I can actually do stuff here. Right. So that was exciting. I also played BioShock this year, though, and I know this, it's a 2008 game.
It's our podcast. We do what we want.
But
you do you.
Even though I didn't actually love that game as much as other people, the setting is obviously really, really cool. So,
the mechanics of BioShock have not aged very well. BioShock itself, I would still love.
Sure,
but,
yeah. Rapture is so iconic for a reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just thought about a category that we don't have: best monster or just best designed character is definitively the World Serpent for me. That thing was scary and awesome. Okay, I think this is one that I added late, so if y'all didn't get it on there and I kind of forgot to tell you, it's fine. But I had favorite art style, which kind of goes along with setting, except for that I put mine as Octopath Traveler, because just when I'm just talking about. When I'm thinking of art style, I'm more talking about that type of game where it's just like what they're doing creatively with that, and just the mix of like the old like SNES style sprites mixed with like flowing water in the background, or like actual like snow particle, like real stuff in the background and like sprites in the foreground. It just worked really, really, really well, and it's one of those. It's like the best example of retro stuff not being for nostalgia anymore. It's just a style of making a game now, and they're doing very cool modern things with that. Like I was never playing that thinking like, this is just a nostalgia grab for an older time. It's like, no, this is an art style choice they made, and it's incredible. It worked really, really well. It was stunning, and like every single area, like I felt I had just as much effort put into it than the last. Like you saw the heaps of snow on the ground and everything, and it was one of those things like my parents, like I was playing at my parents' house, and like my mom and dad I think both independently walked by and they're like, that game is beautiful. And I'm like, they never comment on anything with that, and I'm like, yes, it is. It really, really is.
I haven't played the game, so I don't know if this is a relevant question or not, but did you ever have a problem with kind of like depth?
Yeah,
perceiving depth in that game.
I think other people have talked about having a problem with that a lot more than I did. I mean, to be honest, most of the paths are like not all that crazy as far as branching and anything like that. So I never really had that much of a problem because it was always kind of obvious where I was supposed to go. And like if I had any problems, it was just like for just a second. I was like, wait a minute, where am I? Oh, okay, there. You know,
it wasn't hard to like pick things that you needed to out of the background.
Nah, I never had that bad of a problem, and if I did, it was just slight for like a second. But I mean, if it was branching out all over the place, I could see that being annoying. But it's again, this game definitely has problems. I love this game, but it's definitely kind of a flawed game, and like some of the paths are just very linear. You know, it's just like straight off, straight off. You know. Yeah.
Runner-ups, Octopath, for reasons Darby said. Another one, Dragon Quest. I just love that Akira Toriyama art style, man.
It's so good.
Yeah, it just feels so wholesome, man.
And the monster designs.
Oh, exactly. The monster
lovely.
designs are excellent.
Platypunk. I want a Platypunk.
Yeah, they're very cartoony, but they really work. And then there's some that are just more serious, and they still somehow feel like they all fit in this world. It's excellent. But, well, speaking of Akira Toriyama, my number one, Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Good choice. I respect it. It's hard to believe we now got a, anime fighting game that the characters actually kind of like they're actually from the actual anime. Yeah. They look really good. The animations, everything is just really good. And it's at the point now, if we get any other art style for Dragon Ball games or anime games in general, it's going to be kind of disappointing in a way. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason now that Dragon Ball FighterZ is a thing. Everyone's like, hey, Arc System Works, make a fighting game for blank anime. I mean, they already do that. Oh, no one heard. Persona.
No,
you
Jacob.
can play the dance game, Darby.
Yeah.
Man, I'm enjoying Persona 5 so much, I might be starved for something else.
But Jacob, imagine a JoJo fighting game.
Oh,
with
man. Yeah,
not exactly the exact same art style, obviously, but with that kind of tech.
Yeah.
With
they could translate it.
Yeah.
They're talented. It's a talented studio when it comes to like doing really buttery smooth animated fighting games.
I want JoJo and like My Hero Academia and One Piece and all those just made, and I want Arc System Works to make all those games. The art style is a big reason for that, other than the fighting mechanics being excellent.
So what we need to do is clone Arc System Works and give them every license known to man.
And don't Arc System Works, stop wasting your time with Grand Blue and Blaze Blue and stuff, and just make these anime properties.
My favorite art style is the art style of Return of the Obra Dinn.
I understand that. Yeah.
It's a game, it's a game where it's kind of hard to describe. You haven't seen it before, but it's this kind of two-tone.
It's Game Boy, right? I'm kidding.
Yeah,
that's no joke.
It's this kind of a two-tone, very drawing, sketchy sort of thing. It reminds me of like the 19th century drawings that you're actually referencing in the game.
Okay, yeah.
And I think images of this game don't really do it justice until you see it in action, because like the way things kind of like flutter and move, and just when you're walking around, it is really breathtaking. And again, you're on a ship that mysteriously returned to port. There's no one on there. You're the only person on this boat, and so it's dead quiet. You can see like torn up sails kind of fluttering in this art style, cool. And it is just absolutely beautiful. Really great and unique art style as well.
Yeah, that is 100% a game I'm going to play at some point. Really interested in it.
How about you, Will?
I mean, I didn't physically play anything with a spectacular art style, I guess you would say, but I enjoyed watching my friend play Octopath Traveler for sure. That was a weird game, because I guess, is it 16-bit?
I mean, it's like a mix. I don't know exactly, but I mean, it's like a 16-bit type sprites, but with like it's in Unity, and it has it's.
That's what was interesting to me about it, because I kept on looking at it like, okay, this looks like an old game, but these graphics are amazing.
It's striking.
I don't even know what to call them. But yeah, that I also. You want to say?
I was gonna say, I know they had a term for it. I can't remember what it is. Like HD. 16-bit or some crazy something like that.
I don't know.
4K 16.
Something that they made up, I'm sure. But it's one of these things that I kind of like, that it's not something you can label as like, oh, it's a 16-bit. You just feels like I said, like a nostalgia grab, which that's not like this Celeste and even like the Messenger and Dead Cells. I mean, Dead Cells isn't the same thing, but like all these are kind of like retro, but kind of not. Like they're very modern games. Yeah.
I also played the demo for Valkyria Chronicles, and I know that's kind of like an older game as well, or like, the original. But I love that art style. I thought it was really cool, stylized World War II kind of vision. So
kind of like storybook look to it.
Yeah.
You should play Valkyria.
I would like to. Yeah, I really
I
enjoyed
should
the
too.
demo.
I played like
Yeah, I want to play it as
I
well.
played like 4 hours of the first one. I was really liking it, but
Yeah, it was fun.
alrighty. I'm gonna get through this one really quick to save time. Favorite cast, the Dutch Vanderlyn gang, for every reason I've already said. We don't need to go into it.
Who was your favorite character in the gang? Let's do that at least.
I mean,
Besides Dutch and Arthur
besides Dutch and Arthur,
and John.
Charles probably. I like Charles a lot. Y'all might
Yeah.
y'all might
I
not
don't know
know who
if I know
Charles.
Charles
Jeff
yet.
knows who Charles is. Charles is
It's hard to argue.
especially later on. I'm not going to spoil things, but he I feel like every single member of that cast, even like obviously there's some that are a little more like smaller characters, but when you go into the camp, I feel like I had some meaningful reaction that I'm gonna remember always with every single one of them, even like the cook and the
cook's a jerk.
the different ones. Like, but I feel like every
All
one
cooks
of
are jerks.
every one of them has an arc, which is really cool. And it's like you come in at different times, and it's like it just feels like you said something to them earlier that they're pissed off about it. They're like this, it's it feels like it just keeps going that way. But yeah, Charles is the homie.
Runner-ups. I got Dragon Quest 11. None of the characters are just archetypes and all that kind of stuff, but they're just a jolly, fun cast. Plus, the cast has Sylvando in it.
Yeah,
So.
I'll jump in here because that's my favorite cast. Is the Dragon Quest party like Sylvando.
Yeah.
Like you want to talk about a character that just lights up every scene. That is what this
Yeah.
character is.
Indeed.
And like they fall in the archetypes, but they're so entertaining and lovable and great personalities in all of them.
I will say, since I know where you're at, it just continues, in my opinion, to get better from where you are. So, look forward to that.
I'm excited.
Another run-up, God of War. It's a very small cast, but all the characters feel like they serve a purpose and are memorable for one way or the other. You can maybe argue maybe not those brothers.
Even they had a cool arc.
A lot more than I expected them to.
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, obviously they're the weaker the characters because they get less screen time, but overall it's just a very great small cast that it's weird to think about that they would have held that 30 hour game together the whole time. It's just those few characters. Yeah. And like Darby, favorite cast overall, the Red Dead. I hate that me and Darby are doing the same thing, but it's hard to pick anything other than Red Dead for a lot of us.
I feel like if you buy into Red Dead, these are all reasons. Basically, we just have categories that are like the reasons why we love Red Dead so much. So it's kind of hard not to. Yeah.
I feel like for cast, I think Red Dead is kind of hard to argue against. Even with me only being, I don't know, maybe 10 hours into the game, still each character that you meet, whether it's someone on the street or just a shopkeeper, everyone seems to have a very distinct voice and character. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Though if we're talking about individual performance, shout out to Yuri Lowenthal for Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was very good. Okay, favorite weapon to me, there is absolutely zero argument in this, and there's zero question in my mind. It's the Leviathan axe. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done in a video game, is get that and immediately throw it off a cliff, call it back, throw it, call it back. And I did that even 20 hours into the game or whatever. I was still doing that.
I was on a phone call with my dad once, and while I was talking to him for the entirety of 30 minutes, I was just throwing the axe off a cliff and recalling it.
I don't know what's so satisfying about it. I don't know. Did y'all ever do the thing that you tried to throw the axe and then you just went through a bunch of the game to see how far you could go before calling it back? I tried to go as far as I could without the axe, and then finally, an hour later, I'm like, hey, there it is.
I like how when you're in a cave and you call back, you can hear ping off the walls as it makes its way to you.
I would throw it in the water, and I'd actually see it splash back up from the water.
Oh,
and
wow, I
grab
never
it.
saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the 5 next level or the number one, but I have I think a fun runner-up, the Sabers from Beat Saber.
It's incredible.
If you know Beat Saber, you know why. They're just fun. This is lightsabers. It's fun to sling around and cut those cubes. Yeah. Just a good time.
Yeah.
I imagine those are high up for you too, Darby.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
My favorite weapon was the insect glaive from Monster Hunter World.
Ooh,
yeah, just a fun weapon all in all. And again, this is a game where you can't really jump, and then this weapon adds a jump ability to that.
Jumping all over the place.
Yeah, and so if you haven't played Monster Hunter, it's basically like a dual blade kind of thing, like Darth Maul weapon sort of. And you're essentially, you can pogo stick kind of up in the vault up into the air, and then if you hit a monster with a certain attack, you can bounce off of that, and you can chain aerial attacks with it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny looking, but it's cool. Yeah.
It's really great. And then again, when you land different hits, they do it does more damage, and so kind of hitting that final hit in the monster right on its head and knocking it over as you end kind of your aerial combo string, and then getting down and then buffing and then powering up to hit it while it's down. It's fantastic weapon, incredibly fun to play. That was my primary weapon in the Monster Hunter world. Yeah,
I think Alex has been using it a little bit. It looks fun. I've been light bow gun pretty much the whole time, just because
it's an interesting world.
I just wanted I felt like our party needed someone shooting from behind, but
bow guns are weird. I couldn't get into them, but that's the beauty of Monster Hunter. There's a weapon for everybody.
Yeah, I like making all the ammo and switching between doing the bomb and then the shotgun. It's cool. Yeah, cool game.
Mine's the axe.
Yeah, I figured. I'm just glad at what we weren't all the axe, because it's just that was gonna be it. Okay. Honestly, I'm still gonna go with my favorite gameplay mechanic, which is kind of a broad thing. But honestly, your Beat Saber thing, Beat Saber might be my favorite gameplay mechanic. But aside from the axe, I'm considering the axe its own thing and a weapon. Yeah. But I'm gonna say my favorite gameplay mechanic was just the general co-op mechanics of A Way Out. And just all the different things that they make you do. It's a bunch of different things, but there's things that when me and Jeff are playing it, you're split screen, and I have to set something up for Jeff to do to help us get to the next part. And it was just the interesting ways that they continuously through that whole 6 hours make you work together in very different ways that do interesting things with the controller that never really felt gimmicky. It just was fun. It was just a lot of fun, and it had me and Jeff be oh, this is what we're supposed to do, or we're laughing about something. It was just, that was an awesome experience, and here's Jeff about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I'll just say I got a runner up, but I guess I'll go with it. Talk about that real quick. It's my winner. As Darby said, makes you do a bunch of crazy things. Darby said, not really gimmicky or really fun, and I really want them to take that and expand on it and do more of it in a feature game. Not necessarily A Way Out 2, or if they want to call A Way Out 2, obviously have a different cast at least, or maybe not even that, but take those mechanics and do something else with it, or let someone else do something else with it, because I feel like this was too cool of a thing to just die with this one game. But luckily A Way Out did really well, so we'll hopefully get something more. But my runner-up is the web swinging and Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's gonna be
really
mine
solid.
too.
Yeah. I mean, come on. You just feel so good, man. Swinging through that city.
Mine specifically was how whenever you ran into a wall, you just start running on it. I think
such an improvement from the other Spider-Man games.
It just keeps your speed, keeps the momentum going, so you can immediately get back into the swing of things.
I know some people have a problem with the fact the swinging is too easy, but
that's what makes it fun.
I feel like it'd be a detriment to probably us, depending how they did, and a lot of other people if it was. You have to do more than what we have to do to web swing. Web swinging should just be fun and cool.
Exactly.
Make you feel like a badass. And that's exactly what it does.
That's also why I like how there's no fall damage either. Even though this I can see why some people would think that's lame, but it's you don't want to die.
Traversal was supposed to be fun in that game. Cinematic, you're going, and it's immersing you as Spider-Man. You're a Spider-Man who's been doing this for 8 years. You kind of know what you're doing. And that's the way it made you feel. It didn't need. I don't think that's where the challenge of the game needed to be, and that's what.
No one wants to see Spider-Man crash into the pavement and then ragdoll as a GTA, as a Grand Theft Auto.
Speak for yourself.
But it made more difficult. Those when you got to chase stuff around the city would be a lot more of a pain in the butt than they can already be.
Yeah. Those pigeons would be the devil.
Oh yeah,
Jeff. You didn't have to deliver those pizzas like we did. We've delivered those pizzas in the old PS2 days. All right. Where am I at?
My favorite mechanic would be the pocket watch from Return of the Obra Dinn. Again, if you haven't played this game, so you're investigating how every member aboard the ship died or their fate. Not all of them died. But the pocket watch, you go up to a body and you investigate it, and the pocket watch will take you back to the moment of that person's death or demise or whatever. And yeah, again, just that mechanic itself is very just fascinating and interesting, and the whole like the sound and the music that goes along with it, really incredible. Because like the scene will kind of swirl out from the pocket watch, and swirl back in, or like it'll kind of vibrate at different points, and then like a light will like come out of the pocket watch, and it'll follow the light to this other body, and just the mechanic along with the sound and the design with it is really, really incredible and really interesting.
That was awesome. Yeah, I need to play that game.
Yeah. The more I hear, the more in I am.
Yeah, Jacob's definitely going to sell me more and more. This was very easy for me now. Favorite old game, so any game before 2018 that we just got around to this year. Dear God, is it Persona 5?
Yeah.
This is quickly becoming like my dream JRPG. I'm like, I don't want to be like hyperbolic. I'm like Palace 5. I have a decent ways to go and everything, but I am just so enraptured with this game. And like just everything from, obviously the combat's really cool. It's like it's normal turn-based thing, but I like the weaknesses, identifying different people's weaknesses and doing all that. And it like I feel like I'm using all the characters where I don't in some other ones. And obviously just the entire style of the game, just every menu, everything you do has so much.
So it never gets tired.
No, it doesn't. And probably the single best thing, because this is the thing that I love the most in JRPGs, is the soundtrack, the music. It's insane. It does the thing that a lot of JRPGs do, I feel like, where in just Japanese games in general, where they repeat a lot of like musical motifs and even just songs for different things. And like I can't really explain it, but even though you hear a lot of those same songs over and over again, I still love it. And you know that like when that song, it's like it's time to go into the heist. Everything's about to pop off. This is amazing. And then when you're like talking to people at night, it does that like smooth like music.
I think it's like a really testament to like the soundtrack's quality, because you listen to that battle theme for over and over again for like 80 hours, but it never gets old. It's so catchy.
And that's the one thing that's probably keeping me from Dragon Quest the most, is because I don't want to listen to that MIDI thing 180,000 times, but maybe I can get over it. But I don't, and that's all like the stuff around Persona. But like the thing that I didn't expect to be this enraptured with is every single character. I just love that cast at this point, and it's kind of the same thing as Red Dead. It gets the benefit of I've spent 80 hours with these characters now, and I'm probably gonna spend a whole lot more. And all the confidants, like I don't really think there's a weak link. It's just like I'm just very in. It's a cozy game to just settle in with for like hours and lose track of time. But like, man,
it's a good one.
It's a good one. I went back to listen to our like 2017 or 2018, whatever. We did our rankings, and I had Persona 5 when I'd only played it for like 15 hours, and I had it like below Doki Doki Literature Club and like Horizon and like What Remains of Edith Finch. Definitively above all of those. The only ones that might be under now is Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. But
damn,
that game's good.
What palace are you on again?
The fifth one.
Can you describe it?
Like I don't want to spoil things too much.
Say the theme.
Like
maybe
space.
Okay, that's the worst one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, but the best one is next.
Okay.
So
okay. I'm looking forward to it. The one before this is my favorite one so far.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't stand this palace.
I'm not like, I don't like not like it. I mean, it's a little bland, I guess, at times, but like, it's fine.
Couple runners up for this. I have Shantae Half Genie Hero. It's a fun little 2D platformer or whatever. I guess kind of somewhat Metroidvania style, where you go back to old levels once you unlock different transformation. It's a fun, jolly good time. Another game I kind of finished recently. I kind of forget to talk about on the podcast. I finished Beyond Good and Evil.
Nice. How's that?
I ended up seeing at some point that I was actually, pretty close to being done, or it was only take a couple hours or something, or one good night. So it's like, let's do this, and I did. Enjoyed that. It's definitely a game that shows its age, but the world and story are fun, and it just makes me excited for Beyond Good and Evil 2 when they can expand on all that. The universe and all that kind of fun stuff. And the winner for my favorite old game is Danganronpa 1-2 Reload. If you listen to the podcast throughout the year, you know for a good bit of time I was obsessed with these games, both 1 and 2. Couldn't stop playing them. The story grabbed me. Everything grabbed me about it. Yes, there's a bunch of anime tropes, but they're fun, even though it's more annoying for some characters than others. But it's a very good time. So it had some crazy twists and turns. I'm excited to play Danganronpa, even though it's people have very mixed opinions on it, depending.
Are you gonna play Ultra Despair Girls?
Hell no.
Apparently that game is terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I already watched the anime. That was bad enough.
Oh man.
I think I get it. But yeah, I'm planning on getting into 3 this year. I just want to take a little break after 2.
My favorite old game I played this year is Resident Evil 4. Yeah, which that game is on a lot of people's lists as one of the best games ever made.
Was this your first time playing it?
I played like the first hour of it, like 5-7 years ago. I didn't really remember much.
Okay.
You play on PS4?
I did, and yeah, like I was worried going into it that it'd be overhyped, that I wouldn't really enjoy it as much, or that it aged kind of poorly. Not at all. This game holds up. It's incredibly like well crafted, and you can see how revolutionary it was at the time that it came out. Yeah. It's just a tight experience. It takes, the tank controls, the third person version of the older Resident Evil games, completely changes it, but still keeps that tense horror vibe. And it's just a tight experience all the way through. The story is lighthearted and silly in a great way. Like Leon is spitting like really dumb one-liners. Like when you beat the village area, it's really tense because like you don't have a ton of resources, so you're like running from building to building trying to scramble and grab things, and there's like 30 different villagers coming at you with axes and pitchforks and chainsaws, and it's intense. And you just have to hold them off until like the bell at the church rings and they all disappear. And then Leon walks out into the village. He like looks around. He's like, "Where's everyone going? Bingo?" And then it cuts to like the to the title, and then there's the title screen.
That's
Resident
the title.
Evil 4. Yeah. And just all of that. That's
great.
It's enjoyable from top to bottom. I think again, I played it in 2018. This is a game that came out over 10 years ago, and I think it still plays immaculately. So.
Obviously, if you've been paying attention, I've been gaining interest in the Resident Evil series, especially Resident Evil 2 Remake coming out this upcoming week. Plan on playing 1 and then go to 2. I plan on hopefully getting to 4 maybe this year when the Switch port comes out after I'm done with those 2.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 4 is on just about everything, so...
Yeah, so I'll, why not Switch?
Yeah, so it is now like one of my favorite games ever, like top 10. Wow. Like it is great.
Here's hoping it's remade in the next few years.
We gotta get to 3 first.
Yeah. I'd like to see 3.
I don't even know what 3 is. I haven't.
3.
I only hear about 2 and 4.
Yeah.
3 is good. It's kind of different, and kind of you can see like that progression to like a more action vibe. But you're kind of running through a lot of the streets of the ruined Raccoon City, and that's I think really interesting in its own. There's a lot of really great visuals in that game that came out in like 1999.
Have you played 5?
I've not.
That's the only one I played.
Have you played 6?
I
played
will
the demo
get to
of
those eventually, but
5 is like
I'm hesitant.
5 is fun, but it's also just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry, have you played Resident Evil Giraffe Sex Act?
Oh yeah.
All right, Will.
Oh, this is my section, guys.
This is your MO, man.
No, I'll do a couple honorable mentions. One, I'm kind of hesitant towards Hellblade because while I really enjoyed the first couple hours, I got really bored with it towards the end.
It's one of those, again, like I almost talked about Octopath, but it's a very different way. But it's a very flawed game that I like because it does a lot of things cool. There's a lot of very cool things that I've never seen before in games.
The psychosis element was obviously incredible, but the actual like gameplay was so slow.
The fighting was
bad. Yeah.
The fighting was straight up bad. And it's like it's one of those you have to know you have to know that like this is far from a perfect game, and there's going to be parts of this game you were just outright frustrated with.
Yeah.
But then after you get through that, they'll be like, holy crap, I've never seen anything like this before. So it's a very
right. So I appreciated that game, but I did get bored of it. Another honorable mention towards Ratchet and Clank 2016, because I went into that thinking, I'll just give this a shot, and ended up really enjoying it.
Oh, that game's so good.
Yeah, surprised myself there.
The most unfortunate part about Spider-Man's success is we probably won't get a sequel.
Yeah,
Or
that's
we may
true.
not.
I'm glad we got that period. I didn't expect to even get a
Yeah.
modernized Ratchet and Clank like that,
It was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed the characters really.
So hopefully Ghost of Tsushima is a bomb. So
Yeah.
that Sly
Go
Cooper.
back
So Sly Cooper gets remade. Let's go.
Please no. But my number one, surprisingly, I played this game this year. I forgot about it. Well, it's Horizon. I played it a year late, so obviously that's my favorite old game. I platinumed that game. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, such a good game. That now, like I said, if I went back and did my 2017, it's even lower now because of Persona. I already thought it was crazy how low it was then.
Yeah.
Gaming is very good right now. Alrighty. This is another one. I'm going to go ahead and call my shot and say that me and Jeff have the same answer here. Favorite trailer? There's no other option but the Super Smash Bros. Everyone is here.
Okay.
Reveal at
Yeah.
E3. The fact that going into this, and I'm going to go ahead and just rope both of these into. My biggest surprise is also Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is the next thing, because they kind of go together. I thought that there was no way that they completely satisfy me with Smash Bros. Because Wii U was so amazing and had freaking Cloud and it had just so many amazing DLC characters and such an awesome roster, and I thought for sure going into this new game there's no way they're all coming back. There's there's gonna be people dropped, there's gonna be stages dropped, and there's gonna be amazing new things, but like we're always gonna have to keep a Wii U somewhere where we can play it because that's what has like some of these characters that I love. So I thought there was no way I was going to be completely satisfied. And then they come in here and it was like start introducing the character. I'm like, holy shit, that's Ryu. Wait, does that mean this Cloud? Oh, this Cloud. Oh my god, this is amazing. Right after that Snake, I'm like, what? What the hell? And then everyone is here. And you could go see my reaction to it on YouTube and Jeff's reaction. There's like, it was incredible. And
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my run. I kind of wrapped up Smash Bros. And kind of one thing. The Everyone Is Here trailer is the number one though, but all the trailers were excellent. World of Light, the Belmont trailer, the Cable trailer, all that kind of stuff were great. But yeah, like Darby said, the Everyone in Here trailer, you didn't expect everyone to come back with a new Smash Bros. Unless it was going to be a kind of a little enhanced port, which obviously this game is not. And the way they did it was excellent. I liked that just right away. Technically, the first time really revealing the game, they said, hey, all the old characters are here. You don't have to worry about that during this cycle. You just worry about those new characters. But my honorable mentions are the Cyberpunk 2077 trailer. That's just...
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's good.
That's my favorite.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's just too good of a trailer.
I mean, if I wasn't such a big Smash Bros. Fan, that would have been it for sure.
Yeah, that's just an excellent trailer just all around, just showing the world and just how beautiful it is and kind of giving you an idea what kind of stuff you will be doing in that game. I think it's just an excellent kind of, I guess, re-reveal trailer is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Other honorable mention is Beyond Good and Evil's 2 E3 trailer. It was a really good trailer. I got, kind of the same thing as Cyberpunk, just kind of showing the world the kind of stuff, the way the universe is going to be and how the game has expanded between 1 and 2, especially now that we got more gameplay and it seems a lot of crazy stuff's gonna be going on. And that ending thing with Jade is just excellent. And it's now that I finished the game, I'm like, why, how, what?
Yeah. Okay.
I am in.
Yeah, my favorite trailer was the Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, that's gotta
Just
be it.
so just incredible and like colorful and like
So
full of
interesting in that
attitude
world.
and
Yeah.
bite and just you just want to be there. And it like as a cyberpunk setting is also kind of visually kind of different and like the sunny Southern California look to it.
Yeah, I like that. Like, I love Blade Runner, but I kind of like this is like establishing itself away from that. It's not like dark and dreary and stuff. It's like there's the crazy cybernetic stuff, but like you said, it's also like has this SoCal vibe where
Yeah.
you're like, yeah.
And like that part in the trailer where the character V gets in the car and like revs it up and like the backlights just kick in. You're just like, oh,
Yeah, go.
I want to drive that.
Cool rating up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So very excited.
When
for
just
that.
like so much is packed in that trailer. Like you see the guy like on the plane like spazzing out, like
Yeah.
and, like sparks flying from. Like what the hell's happening to him? It's like the model girl that has like a half of her face
Yeah.
is like
So much
lifted up.
world
It's
building in like 3 minutes. It's incredible.
insane. That's how you do a trailer, like a
Yeah.
short trailer, but it's just jam packed. Yeah. I'm guessing that's you too, Will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I already said my biggest surprise is just that Super Smash Bros. Was what it was. That they like got me with Super Smash Bros. Like I have no complaints, 0 complaints, and I never thought that was going to be something that would have happened. So that's my biggest surprise.
Yeah, it's a big surprise to me too, but my biggest one is just VR in general this year, man. It was just a really good year. They really stepped up and show that hopefully VR is here to stay. We have excellent games like Astrobot, Beat Saber, Moss, Tetris Effect, Firewall Zero Hour, and a bunch of other cool little things. This was a year like the Game Awards, for instance. Obviously, the Game Awards not the end all be all, but we had a whole category of 5 games where you don't feel like you're just kind of putting a game in there just to fill out the thing. Those were probably the 5 best VR games this year, and it was just an excellent year. It makes me more excited for the future and just see where people take VR games.
Amazing year for VR.
I'd say my biggest surprise is Resident Evil 2 Remake, how well crafted and looking that game is. How a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want it to be like the old game, but just like, like Resident Evil Remake, the old gameplay, but different, nice looking graphics. And instead, they had something very different, the over the shoulder camera, but, what it seems, and like, according to the demo, like, it plays really well. And old fans, people who are wanting an old type game like that are really into this, and I think that's a really
I feel
nice
like
surprise.
Like you said, people were kind of wanting it to be just a new coat of paint, but it seems like after the trailer and the gameplay came out, it seems like the people saying that went down dramatically, and people seem to have been in.
Yeah, it's you didn't know you wanted it like this, but this is really what you wanted.
Yeah.
So I mean, game wise, obviously the end of God of War, the final reveal. I don't want to spoil it just in case because it's too good, but you know what it is.
But it's good.
Yeah. But, industry wise, I think Cyberpunk is first person was the biggest reveal for me. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was very surprising, and like I do love that it went from, and I'm guilty of it too. I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know. Like this is weird, whatever. And then they released that 40-minute like gameplay. I'm like, never mind, I'm good. Let's go. Let's freaking go.
This is fine.
Alrighty, my biggest disappointment, makes me a little sad, is that this is a very, very, very personal one. And I would say Fallout 76, but honestly, I'm not that disappointed because like I was never sold on it. Huh?
Do you play it?
No, I'm just saying like what it ended up being. Just in
crazy,
general.
right?
No, I'm not. Yeah,
not a
come on.
masochist.
Come on. I don't hate myself that much. But like I was, if I had been sold on 76 and I was really excited and it ended up being that bad, then that could be. But I was always hesitant about it, and then it just ended up being bad. So I'm like, okay, whatever. My biggest disappointment was World of Light for Super Smash Bros. After the World of Light trailer, I just was really hoping this was going to be something like Subspace Emissary with like a dumb, fun, like single player Smash Bros. Mode that I could go through and like enjoy a lot. And I thought it was like potentially going to surpass Subspace Emissary because it has like a lot of problems. And just when I got into it, it just was not for me. Like the weird battle conditions and just going through the world, it was just like there's so much in it, and it just so much of it just felt kind of tedious to me. I just wasn't feeling like rewarded enough for doing that, and like I was way more drawn to just go play online and like try to get better with characters doing that. And I mean, it was not the biggest deal. Smash Bros. Is still amazing, and the fact that this is my biggest disappointment of the year means it was a really good year. It's just, it was just a little sad that I didn't get into the adventure mode of such an amazing game, but not that big of a deal.
Well, Dory, luckily it's still better than Subspace Emissary, whether you like it.
I enjoy Subspace Emissary more.
It's playing it's so much better. But my biggest runner-up, Pokemon Let's Go. I'm not even getting into all the game, not even necessarily all the gameplay things I have a problem with. That's just, the game's not necessarily for me, blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of disappointing in its own way. The first big mainline console Pokemon game, I had zero interest in shortly after it was announced. So that's kind of a bummer. So hopefully Gen 8 does it for me. My biggest disappointment, I've talked about it pretty much all year. It came out about a year ago. The Impatient. Darby brought up a point at some point leading up to this that I was saying this could be like a VR killer app thing. And I still believe it could have been, but unfortunately it was a disappointment. Not even necessarily from the gameplay, the story, and just some, I guess, creative decisions were, I don't know, It's just not there, and I'm not alone with this. A lot of people seem to not care for the Impatient, and we're really disappointed in it.
I'd say my biggest disappointment is just Bethesda in general. With Fallout 76, which I like Fallout a lot, and like when that first trailer came out that we didn't really know what it was, I was like, okay, this could be interesting.
Country roads, man.
Yeah, and wasted that song on the trash fire of the game. And then when E3 rolled around, they kind of like, oh, this is gonna be like an online multiplayer sort of thing. And then when it came out, and it's just a continuing burning dumpster fire, that's just disappointing. The fact that we're not gonna get another Fallout game for probably like over 10 years. It's gonna be a long time.
Yeah, if you think from Starfield and Elder Scrolls, and just that so much time and resources were put into those.
And then all the nasty stuff about it, about how people's like credit card information is getting leaked,
through Fallout 76. Really?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
How like people's help emails are going to some random person's email address.
Yeah, there was someone who was like, literally, I logged in because the whole canvas bag controversy thing. Someone like logged in to get their like it was something involving that, and they're like, hey, I can see literally everyone's like credit card information. Like, it's like, hey, I'm not doing anything with it, but just letting you know, I shouldn't be able to see this, and I can't. It was
what is happening?
Every time you thought it couldn't get worse, it got worse.
Yeah, there was like a good month where every week we were talking about stories like, oh, so it got worse.
Yeah, and then the whole like Elder Scrolls 6 quote reveal
JPEG.
Yeah, JPEG.
That's what I was going to say.
Starfield / Elder Scrolls 6 all being on one thing.
It's like, no, like, you don't get to act like, oh, get excited for this game that we literally don't have a subtitle for. Like,
could you imagine, like, literally any studio could do that? You could be like, hey, we're planning on working on this one day.
I mean, can you imagine if all studios announced the game that they were making after the game that they're currently making that's early on?
Yeah, just Bethesda, man. What are you doing?
Like, the announcement of that itself wasn't that big of a deal, but the fact that was like their big thing, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" It's like everyone knew this was happening. We know nothing more now than we did before. Yeah, this was not like a shock. Like, oh, they're making an Elder Scrolls 6. What?
Like DICE was like, we're making a Battlefield in 3 years. Just
letting you know. Me? I mean, at least like Metroid Prime, it was like, oh, they're actually doing it. It's like, yeah.
Well. And potentially it's coming out like 2 years after or something. We still probably got like 6 years till Elder Scrolls 6. I'm being generous.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right.
Well, mine 1 second.
So sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say once again, a year without Rocksteady,
a
year without Splinter Cell. But that's more personal.
Yeah. They have to be this year, right? I mean, I know we keep on saying that. We gotta be right one of these years.
The Splinter Cell guy, like, it was interviewed recently, and he basically pretty much said there's nothing in development.
Oh my
right
gosh.
Okay, but Rocksteady though, and Avengers.
Yeah, and Avengers. What the heck?
I know. Like, I feel so bad. Will's been on so many things with us, but like he has this list of things he wants, and we're like, yeah, Will, I think that's gonna happen. And none of it happened. But hey, you were with us with that Joker Smash announcement, and it's up to like almost 40K now. It's like 37K or something. All right, last one of these categories, and then we'll probably go through top 10s pretty fast just because we've already talked about a lot of these games. But, we can get to that. Biggest regret, though, I have trouble thinking of too many things, and if Jeff, if you can point out anything that should be here, let me know. But my biggest regret was playing a little bit of Hollow Knight and then dropping it. Like, because really, that game seems like a game that I'm going to love. I love that Metroidvania type of style there, and just the very like weird dark like bug kingdom thing, like vibe and art style of Hollow Knight, and the soundtrack is very like minimalist but really cool. I just dig everything about it. It was just, I had so many other games, and then I ended up playing Celeste, which I felt like that was all the really difficult 2D platformer I had in me.
Yeah.
So and then Red Dead came along and it just got pushed back, and that's a really a bummer because that Shadow Drop I was so excited about and bought it immediately and played like 3 hours, and then it just kind of fell off. But I will get to that game. 100%.
Yeah, that's a good one for me too. But the two one I put down here is not finishing Dragon Quest 11. I want to try to finish it, but between Smash and Red Dead and Spider-Man, it's all led into each other. It just wasn't gonna happen.
It was a packed season.
Yeah. Other one I have is not playing more Fighters. I love that game. It was just an unfortunate thing. Darby and Alex and Olivia, despite buying 2 copies, one for each, did not play it like at all.
and we suck at it. Jeff just destroys us every single time.
Which it sucks because this is like the only time this has happened in a fighting game.
So they're like, we're not doing it. We're not playing.
Jeff's good? Nope.
I'm out.
Yeah. My biggest regret is not turning on the kind of easy mode in Celeste, because I played through that game and I was being really stubborn, and I just realized that I do not enjoy ultra hard 2D platformers like that. And I beat it. I'm glad I beat it. And again, like, great story, great music, but just playing it, I just did not enjoy at all. And I think had I made it easier on myself, I probably would have gotten more out of it.
I definitely feel that with a lot of games like that. For some reason, Celeste worked with me, and I mean, like, there was times like I died so many times, but
I just don't have the patience for that type of game. It's at least in that type of 2D platform.
I had to with Divinity Original Sin 2. I ended up bumping it down to easy at some point, and it was like the best decision I could have made, at least for like that my first playthrough. I'll probably play that game again at some point, but like I was really into the story and everything, and I knew this game, even if you're not dying all the time, takes 100 hours to beat. So it was like, this is just too much, and I don't have enough time to be playing this game every single night and know all these different things. So that definitely made it a lot better for me. It's like,
mine might have been either spending a wasted hour with Captain Spirit, because I was under the impression it was going to be like just, a really short chapter, and that was going to be it, like a full complete script. And I played for like an hour and a half and was like, oh, okay, whatever. But also deciding to platinum Hellblade was quite a chore.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I imagine
Wait,
that would
so
be a lot.
what was wrong with Captain Spirit?
I just didn't love. I just thought it was going to be like a complete thing, but it led directly into Life is Strange 2, I guess.
I see.
And I was just like,
I liked it, but now, especially with how long it's taking Life is Strange 2 to keep going, in hindsight, it's getting more and more like Captain Spirit feels like a distant memory.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how much this is leading into the game when I played it like coming up on a year ago. It's that's going to be...
Yeah, I just thought it was going to be like a complete side story, and I think that was the issue. It's just like, all right, I played this for an hour and a half and don't feel like I got anything out of it. There weren't even trophies. Come on, give me a trophy.
All right, well, it's time to go through our top 10 games. Like I said, I think we can pretty much go through you can talk about some of the games we haven't talked about, and talk about whatever you want to talk about, but especially, I guess, if someone calls you out on like, what? That's, we can discuss certain things, but I'm probably just going to...
Let's fight.
Go around. Yeah, we're going to fight each other to the death here. And I think we're going to go 10s around, 9s around, whatever.
No,
and you can just
not be part of this.
I just do the table in general. You can talk about like whatever your favorite games when we get there. But I don't have very many. I could have had more honorable mentions, but I just kind of got the base level, and I'm sure I'll be like, yeah, that one too when y'all say things. But I have 3 honorable mentions. They are Mario Tennis Aces, A Way Out, and Monster Hunter World. Mario Tennis Aces was like another one of the biggest surprises. I really, really love that game, and Monster Hunter World is just such a fun experience with a group of people, and those are really good games. But my number 10 is Beat Saber, which is a very big surprise to me. To have a VR game in general on here, but then just I've seen Beat Saber before. It's like a little like cool rhythm game that you're moving around hitting things, but I thought it'd just be like a little fun thing that I'd play. But like, now that I've played it multiple times when Jeff's brought it over, it is just like I've never been this into a rhythm game before, and something about the actual like moving, that it just makes sense the way they do things, and the way that the blocks are laid out goes to the song, so you just feel really cool. Because you do, and like the bass is like really loud on all those songs, and it's just such an amazing experience using those to go. And I'm sure it's on Jeff's list somewhere.
Okay, yeah, I'll do I got 3 honorable mentions as well. I kind of have them numbered, so I'll do that. My number 13 game, technically, Monster Hunter World. It's a fun game, but yeah, Darby and I didn't play it as much as a lot of people did, and just kind of played some throughout the year with friends and all that kind of stuff. We didn't. Neither of us have dived that deep into it like a lot of people.
And I don't really like playing Monster Hunter alone, like at all. I really want to be in a group of people, and maybe that's just because that's the way I've played most. But
and some stuff just feels kind of tedious, or kind of a pain. Like us getting into a hunt together, but it's story related, is too much of a pain.
I think that it is like annoying. I think the first time, but like once you kind of get familiar with it, like it's kind of. I think the complaint over that was a little overblown. Like it's not rocket science. but it certainly could have been done.
No,
better.
it's not rocket science, but it's just still kind of annoying when we just want to get in with our friends, and sometimes it's, I don't know, it's just really annoying.
it's
There is
certain
room for
things. It's
improvement.
not that I can't figure it out. It's just that there's certain things that I should be able to do. Like we should be able to just set out on normal expeditions together. Why do we have to go in individually and watch these cutscenes and then back out and then join in with people?
Right,
There's
that
just
is a problem.
quality of life stuff
Yeah.
that just seem like no brainers to be.
No, that cutscene thing was the main thing I was talking about.
Right, yeah. I was going to say random hunts, like it wasn't.
No,
as big
no,
of an
that,
issue.
no, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. Then my number 12, A Way Out. Really fun game with the whole co-op mechanic and all that. Story was fun and cheesy.
It's great for it.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And my number 11 is Moss, which was, to me, the start of this great VR year, where it was one of those first examples of, hey, VR games can actually be real games and be really good. And it was a short, like, little 3-ish hour experience. You can go back and do some stuff, get some more collectibles and stuff, but it was a lot of fun, and I like it. At the end, they said, into book 1, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be like, have multiple parts, and I am excited for it. And my number 10 is The Missing, J.J. McField and the Island of Memories. Like I just discussed, the story, one of the best of the years, one of the best characters of the year for sure. The reason it's as low as it is the gameplay is not great. I think I seem to enjoyed it more than a lot of people did. Some people say it's just flat out terrible.
I don't think so.
I think
yeah.
it's solid. I think it's serviceable at the very least.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of weird, really nuanced movement to it that I think a lot of people just kind of gloss over. Like they think it's like Inside or Limbo, where it's pretty simple.
And the mechanics are cool and have, you think they can be kind of like torture porn or whatever, might be the wrong word for it, or violence for violence sake. But there is a kind of a message behind it that if you go through the story, you'll get. But it's just a really cool game that I think a lot more people need to play.
I didn't do any honorable mentions, but my number 10 is a game called Paratopic. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it.
Never heard of it.
It's an indie little horror game, for $3 on Steam. Really cool, short 45-minute atmospheric experience. The visuals are these kind of lo-fi polygon sort of style, very grungy, and each scene kind of begins in the middle of something, you don't have any context, and then it ends abruptly. And the way it goes about presenting its horror is very akin to David Lynch movies, where there's kind of this creepiness and eeriness to these very mundane environments and tasks. You'll be at a gas station in the middle of the night, and you're just talking to this guy who just starts rambling to you about aliens and conspiracies, and it's just unsettling and weird. And it's a game where you play it multiple times and you kind of get a grasp of what's going on in the story. Really neat. Again, super cheap, only 45 minutes.
Also, be sure to go to nerdsatlarge.wordpress.com where you can read about other horror recommendations that Jacob has for games.
Yes,
they're really good. Yeah,
I did top 5 favorite horror games.
yeah, definitely check
Love
that out. All right. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll get you at the end. All right. My number 9 is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is I really hate it for pretty much this entire series. I feel like it's been underloved and underappreciated. Just they always come out at bad times, and it's one of those things. And they're definitely Shadow of the Tomb Raider, just like Rise and somewhat of the first game. The story is serviceable. It's a fine enough story with Lara going through this thing. They try to set her up as this dark anti-hero, and that falls flat for the most part. It's it just a lot of their moments feel unearned, and basically that is definitely not where Tomb Raider shines. But where I do think this shines over Uncharted and over every game I've played of this style is just the actual moment-to-moment gameplay and how you level up Lara and her guns and do certain things. And especially in this game, the puzzles were awesome in this game. Where Rise I feel was 60% action, 30% puzzles, and there was definitely way more of an action focus. This is the complete opposite, and I feel the puzzles is where most of the thought went into it, and I think it was good. It was a good idea because this is basically there's a hidden really, really, really good puzzle game in this Tomb Raider game, which is cool.
That interests me more than just it being mostly an action kind of third-person shooter.
Which the action is good. I especially the stealth. I feel was better in this one, and I usually prefer action over puzzles. I like a good mix, but I felt this one is one of the few exceptions where I'm I really like that. And it was just a fun experience. Like Tomb Raider, it's kind of junk food, but it's like it's really fun. Like I think it's from a gameplay perspective, it's awesome. It's what I wish that Uncharted was more like gameplay wise, where I wish Tomb Raider was more like Uncharted story wise.
Yeah.
It's like
combine the two, you got a perfect game.
Perfect game. Yeah.
What did you think of the setting in like Mesoamerica?
That's the other part of it. Is like I feel like it didn't do a whole lot of things different than Rise other than the puzzle things, but the settings are basically the complete opposite. Rise is like snowy Siberian mountains. This is like in the middle of like the jungle. It was really cool and like really in the settings that you go to these different like villages and stuff, and I really feel, apparently they did a lot of research into like the actual locations and tribes and stuff, and there's definitely some cool things here. I'm not trying to like oversell it. It has problems, and it's not like the story's not gonna grip you completely, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in this game. So yeah.
Nice.
My number 9 is Dragon Ball Fighters, baby.
Woo!
Just said before, very fun fighting game, very beautiful with the art style and everything. The single player is actually pretty good, though. Our main complaint I have, it was overly long and could have been more of a challenge instead of just less button spamming. But it had a lot of fun interactions between characters that have never met, barely talked or whatever. A lot of fun stuff, obviously. Said the fighting mechanics are great, and I wish I had played it more. I plan on hopefully playing more throughout this year, especially with the DLC Season 2, I guess, starting up later this month.
Also, Will, if you do need to take off, I can like pause it and you can go. But okay. I'm just letting you know. Okay, I know it's over 2 hours.
we're
it's longer than I promised you.
My number 9 is Donut County. It's a fun little puzzle game where you control a hole that grows bigger as it swallows objects. And it's a very just colorful, silly, lighthearted game. The thing that I like the most about it is that it is a very short and tight experience. Like there's no really like fluff into it. The puzzles kind of build on each other with each level, but they never really reach a point of becoming obtuse. And just great soundtrack, like the song Quack Anthem. The song bumps. Like it's great.
Slaps.
Yeah, the characters are they're funny and like the dialogue is enjoyable. Great art style and just a fun short romp, very relaxing game.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of forgot that you played that, but yeah, I've been interested in Donut County.
Yeah, and it's like
it's
$13.
Cheap, yeah, it's like really cheap. Yeah,
it is perfectly priced.
Yeah, and that's on Switch. I know. Yeah. Switch. Oh, so sorry. What are we at? We're at 8. My number 8 is Octopath Traveler. I've talked about it enough. I think, like I said, it has problems, but the things it does right is like the things that I love most in video games. Like I think if you made me say what my favorite genre is, it's probably a turn-based JRPG. There's definitely bad versions of them, but if you can get things right and the art style, the soundtrack, and the break mechanic they do in there, it's just that all that is top notch. It just the game gets very grindy in the second half of it, which is what makes it further down on my list here, because there's definitely just not enough in the game to justify how grindy it is. Like you have to beat a certain level to get to the next section or to survive the next section, and there's like those numbers should have been bumped way down, because like the amount of time that I had to spend, like I guess I'm just gonna listen to a podcast and run around and fight things to level up, and I'm like,
I mean, a big thing that would have helped that game is if the members that aren't in your party level up too. I guess it doesn't make sense as much in context because you're technically leaving them at an end, but still.
That's the problem, yeah, because you end up having to use all of them because you're doing different. They're broken up into different stories for all 8 characters, so those characters obviously have to be in the party. So I ended up like it took so long to get these people. I'm like, okay, I finally have like these 3 people where they can do their chapter 3s or whatever. I do those, and then I go back in there and I look, and the other people are like 12 levels lower than them, and I'm like, and I have to get them to like the same level. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, that sounds like a serious structural problem.
It is. I mean, I played this game for 55 hours and loved those 55 hours. No, I'm saying that was without getting too much into the grindiness. I loved it. I mean, there definitely towards the end of that 55 hours, there was a lot of grindiness, but I have a good ways to go, and I have to grind to get there. It's just like I hope that gets fixed in a sequel. I hope they keep the same art style choices or in soundtrack type vibe, but just fix that part of the game. Or at least if it's going to be that high of levels, give me more things to do. Because I basically had filled out that map. I had done all the side stuff you can do, and still, it's a bummer, but really cool game. So many good ideas in that
Indeed. My number 8, Beat Saber. We talked about it a lot. It's just a very fun VR game. It is very addicting, very like arcadey, and I guess the main complaint, if I have any, is I wish the soundtrack was bigger. Wish I had more songs.
Which apparently that's just the PSVR problem, because you can get like outside songs. And
you can mod them in there. So yeah, but still a very good game. And if anyone has VR, this is a must-have.
Yes, I am agree.
My number 8 is Marvel's Spider-Man.
Hey, there it is.
And Will, if you want to like grab my mic and chime in, feel free. But yeah, I mean, this game, I wasn't really interested in it like leading up to its release, but then I heard people's impressions of it, and I was like, okay, like this sounds like an enjoyable, bite-sized open world experience. And again, like the combat for me, maybe like left a little bit to be desired. And I felt like some of the side content was not as interesting as it could have been, like those research stations. Mm-hmm. Not really interested in those, but other ones were pretty great. But the thing that I liked the most and that surprised me the most in this game was its story and its characters. The fact that it was smaller focused and that allowed it to be a Spider-Man story and a pretty personal Peter Parker story was definitely my favorite part. And like, again, I got really emotional towards the end. The fact that happened in a Spider-Man story, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree. I think me and Jake were basically in the exact same mind with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was going to say also that I think I always knew it's a Spider-Man game. Of course, I'm going to play it and I'm going to enjoy it. But the story is definitely what marked it for me as something special. Specifically just the reimagining of the world and how Peter Parker is 23 in this world and hasn't met a lot of the villains that we're used to him with. In some ways I almost felt like this was almost a definitive version of what I imagined Spider-Man to be, which is interesting because it did change a lot about his surroundings anyway, not necessarily his personality or his character, but his surroundings. So it did remind me of the Arkham games a lot in that fashion, as I think of, the Batman in those games to be almost the definitive version. And I really, really enjoyed his setting and the plot that they were able to put along with that game.
I am agree. All right, my number 7 is Florence.
Ooh. I'm really interested in that.
I really want, I want all of y'all to play it, but yeah.
Bucks, right?
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 or something. It's like, this is, if you don't know what Florence is, it's a mobile game that's like 45 minutes to an hour. It's really not that long at all. But it's like, this game like does some of the best stuff I've ever seen in just games or books or anything, in like telling the story of like a failed relationship. And it's something that like I think we've all experienced at some point, and the way that they use the gameplay mechanics to like convey stories. Like, I'm not gonna spoil too much of it, but it's really crazy how like, at the beginning of the game, you're doing these different mechanics that kind of represent this relationship going on, and it's like happy and carefree, and the soundtrack is phenomenal and everything goes with it. You're doing all this, it's easy to do all these different mechanics at the beginning because everything's happy. And then as it goes on and there's like tumultuous things with the relationship, some of the mechanics get harder, the soundtrack gets like changes, and just it hits you so damn hard, and so much harder than you're expecting to. And then like just an hour later, you're sitting here and like I was just thinking over that game for weeks afterwards from just this very short. They trimmed all the fat off of it. It is just like a very tight, awesome experience for really cheap, and it's special. Like storytelling in video games, it's like up there. It's really, really special.
Yeah, I really want to play that game. I'm just kind of scared too because I know it's gonna like emotionally wreck me.
I've seen people like talk about like sobbing after it, and I definitely teared up. I definitely was like,
played it in one go, I assume.
Yeah,
it's only like 40 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, 45 to an hour. I mean, I think it kind of depends on how long but I mean, there's really like, it's mostly told through like pictures and just like insinuates things. It's not like it's telling text
Very
over and
minimal
over. It's very
storytelling.
minimalist, but it's cool. Yeah.
My number 7, Marvel Spider-Man. Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. It's a really fun game. The story is a very good Spider-Man story. As we've talked about in our Spoilercast episode itself, up to our sequel really well. It gets me very excited. And for the foreseeable future, Yuri Lowenthal is the voice I'm going to hear where I'm like reading Spider-Man.
Definitely.
Which that's like the biggest compliment you could give to this game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say just a really good Spider-Man game. Very good superhero game, and can't wait for more. It's also my first platinum.
Oh,
And only one.
I got 6 this year.
Get good, Jeff. Says the man who got no platinums this year.
I'm gonna say, if you're the type of person that likes to get trophies, Donut Counties is very easy.
There you go, Will.
Yeah, the platinum for it is like 25%. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of my 3 platinums is Game of Thrones Telltale. That's Rocket League and then one of the Sly Coopers. I don't remember.
we're on number 7.
Yes. We're 7. We're 7 going around. He's the last one. Yeah, we're 7.
My number 7 is God of War. This is the game that, like, again, wasn't really super interested in it before, but then I think this game got a lot of high praise, a lot of perfect scores.
Yeah.
And while I wouldn't, for me personally, to me it's not a 10 out of 10, it's still really enjoyable and a very well crafted game. Again, the polish on just about everything is really like impressive.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier, my favorite part of it is them taking this old character who is very who embodies the kind of attitude of video games at the time that he came out in the mid 2000s, and they completely rework him into a more palpable character for modern audiences. Right. And the themes of him kind of worrying about his kid, making sure his kid doesn't become what he is, I think was very emotional and thought-provoking and a great story overall. And I'm excited to see where they go in future sequels with mythology in mind.
I'm excited that you played it, and just that I think it does speak to the polish that there are definitely games that's this is not my type of game, but it was polished enough that I would still genuinely enjoy it and appreciate it. Yeah. All right, my number 6, Marvel Spider-Man. All the same things we said before. The story is definitively the best part. I'm with Jacob that definitely the combat by the end got to be a little bit of a drag for me, but I was so invested in that story that it didn't matter that much. And I think these are some of the best incarnations of these characters that we've seen over and over and over again. And the fact that I'm this drawn to some what amounts to a very similar stories that I've seen before, but they just do it in such an interesting way that pulls on nostalgia, but also just when you think everything's going to be how you expected it, there's twists there. There's really interesting, awesome twists and just characters that you grow to love in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, this game is not that long, but I feel like they pack a lot into it, and super, super good game. And I think that Spider-Man 2 or whatever is going to be even better. I think that's going to be where it really, really starts to click.
My number 6, Astrobot Rescue Mission.
Wow, I thought it'd be higher on your list.
I was expecting a bit higher too. I'm trying to think of what would be. We'll see.
It won't be that. I don't think it'll be that surprised once you actually hear what mine are.
Okay.
Yeah, this game is so jolly. It's just a joy to play from start to finish. I think a lot of people were thinking when this game was potentially announced, or even when thinking about VR, 3D platform in VR, that's dumb. How'll that work? And then you play this game that's how.
Oh, that's how it works.
It's just, again, a joy to play. It's very creative. It's taking things that are, normal in 3D platforms and cartoony things, and they use them in very creative ways to make it work in VR and with the kind of limitations there. And it just sets up building blocks, I think, for future VR games in general, and obviously in Astrobot 2, which, with how praised this game is, you have to imagine. We're getting more as long as PlayStation is making PlayStation VR, we're going to get more Astrobot games.
From all accounts, this didn't cost that much to make.
Yeah, it was made by a team of 20 people.
Yeah.
So
And it's just like I love how this game has. I'll just go ahead and say my number 5 is Astrobot Rescue Mission. But the fact that like I love that it has no qualms about like no, we're going to take what works great in 3D platformers. We're going to take stuff from Mario Odyssey and like just Mario in general, Super Mario 64, just like 3D Mario games and everything like that. And like it's finally they take that, they have no problem with taking what works and just putting it into VR and like really thinking about what would make these mechanics the best in VR, what would make this experience great. And they don't go over the top with like so many gimmicks of VR things. It's simple things like Astro like launches above your head and lands on the platform and you're staring up at him.
Okay,
it's like that's really cool. Or he goes down underwater and you're like having to tilt your head over to see around walls for him to like swim down in places. Little things like that just make it you feel like you're in this world. It's like you're playing Super Mario 64, but you're in there, and it's cool. Like it's subtle, but that's what I like about it. That's why I feel like it doesn't come across as gimmicky. It comes across as like
just using the tech that it's
right. Yeah, and I didn't play this game, but like I love just the design of Astrobot. I want that kind of like character to become like a Sony mascot.
PlayStation All Stars 2.
Yeah, I think go. Like he's an adorable little robot.
Yeah. Oh. Also, very underrated soundtrack. No one's going to talk about that soundtrack, but it was surprisingly really good. Like the soundtrack is something I expected to just be very bland and this like kind of cheaply made. It's just like a Sony little robot mascot thing. It's like the Playroom robots. I didn't expect that to be
the song that usually plays when you're like in caves.
Oh, so good, so good, so jolly.
Yep, so jolly.
My number 6 is Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Nice.
Which is a remake of the PlayStation 2, Yakuza 2. I like this game a lot. Again, I've talked about Yakuza a lot on this podcast, so you know I love the series. I like the game. The part that I like the most about this game was its characters that it introduces. You get Kiryu has kind of like this sidekick who's this straight-laced detective lady. And it really breaks my heart that she doesn't show up in more games. This is her only game that she's in, but because she's such a great character, and the way that she and the main character Kiryu play off of each other are really well done. And then also the main villain, whose name is Ryuji Goda. He's this big, burly, like Yakuza guy from Osaka. And I don't speak Japanese, but I can tell that he has the thickest accent like ever. Like you know how you can hear people who have like a strong like Southern or like Texan accent. It's like that. Like, you can just tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, like fun story, like more plot twist in like the final hour than like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Over the top. You know. And it's also the game where they start to embrace some of the more wacky kind of trappings of the later games. There is a side story where you fight a bunch of guys in like diapers because they're into like like baby play kind of kink. And yeah.
Wheels in, right?
Yeah. And there's a part
said yes, guys.
where this guy. There's this part.
Yeah, they can't hear. We can say he said anything. Like
There's one where this guy like invites you to come do a photo shoot, and you're like, yeah, sure. And so they're like, okay, we need to take your shirt off. And the camera guy comes out, and he's this big burly bald dude in like a Speedo, and he's like, all right, time for your photo shoot. And then he's like, show me like fierce, and Kiryu does like a tiger roar. And it's like, yeah, that's it. And this guy's name is Poison, by the way, the photo guy. But yeah, just a fun time, and like the gameplay is improved from Yakuza 6. It uses the same engine, and it makes me really excited for Judgment.
Just what a good time for Yakuza the last like 2 years has been.
Yeah, I think because it is an improvement in gameplay, and I think Judgment will be even better, even more smoother.
Yeah,
have more options.
I kind of want, not that they're the same thing at all or whatever, but I kind of want to use Persona as my gateway drug to get into Yakuza. So just like after this much like Japanese writing, just go full bore into.
I mean, they're both published by Sega, so like put Kiryu as like a DLC character in Persona 5.
Oh my god,
as like a confidant.
Put him in the Arc system where it's Persona 5 fighting game that you eventually make.
They actually reference because for one of the scenes, Makoto, you go to the movie theaters, and it's like you see like
I've been there with her at least once.
So Like a Dragon is Yakuza in or Like a Dragon is the name of the Yakuza games in Japan.
Okay. Interesting. Alrighty. I'm pretty sure we're at number 4, right? Yep.
Number 5. You said you're 5.
Oh, then Astrobot. Move on to Jeff. already did it.
Number 5, Dragon Quest 11.
That's my number 5 too.
Hey,
Yeah.
join the conversation. Everyone's
This is the first Dragon Quest game I've played, and it is so charming and whimsical. Again, the art style, the music, the whole feeling of adventure is just so great. And then as far as like JRPGs go, I think this is up there with me with Persona 5 is like one of the best JRPGs of this console generation.
Nice.
It shows how you can still have a very traditional type of game in that genre, but have these quality of life features that make it accessible to people who may not really be into that genre or not as into it as they once were.
Yeah, and I think it helps to make it different from past Dragon Quest games because the fighting system is pretty much mostly the same, but there's some quality of life things that help enhance it, or just little things like the skill tree thing is different than at least the 8, I think, from when I played. It's been a while since I played 8. But just like what Jacob said, it's like a whimsical adventure. It's just a whole lot of fun. The art style and the cast are just charming as hell.
And the locations too. Those towns are so adorable.
Top tier towns.
like it says something that every time I get to a new town, I have to go smash every pot I can. I gotta go through everywhere. Read every book.
You gotta go look at the shop, see what's in there, okay, and then before you buy anything, make sure you go smash everything
and look for some puff puff.
You need some puff puff.
You gotta
it's
get
been a
your
long
fix.
journey.
Gotta get your fix of puff puff, I guess.
Yep. And you gotta find those mini medals.
yeah, that too.
When I hear puff puff, I'm thinking they're huffing something. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of great dialogue too in that game.
And Sylvando.
And I'm so happy they added the voice acting from this.
Yes.
Japan didn't have it. The voice acting is really solid, especially from the main cast.
Akira Toriyama, boss
great.
designs. So jolly, so charming. Yep. All right, my number 4, God of War, which we've talked to death today. Not gonna say too much more. Again, I'm with Jacob. I think one of my favorite parts of it is just that they took Kratos and made me care so much about him that I cried during this game, which is not something I ever thought could have been possible. And just that relationship with Kratos and Atreus was just something very unique. Like you said, it reminds me of The Last of Us, but this was definitely something a little different, the father-son relationship. And it really seems, and especially hearing Corey Barlog talk about it, it seems like it's just a very personal story that comes from a very personal place in his real life, and I just love that. It's just a great piece of art. And I think I'm someone that, I think everyone was very excited and expected very good things from God of War, just from the trailers and everything. We all knew that it was going for this more of this type of vibe, but I feel like my expectations were through the roof, way more than even most people, to the point where I was worried about being let down by it because I was so excited about it, and it was better than I would even thought. So, and the fact that it's my 4th game of the year, I said the same thing with Horizon last year. It was the fact that it's this far down is absurd.
Same. Are we starting this?
Yeah, I think we might be the rest of the way this is.
Yeah. Pretty much a lot of what Darby said. My expectations weren't necessary. My expectations weren't necessarily as high. It was high in the case of, I know this is going to be an excellent game. Everything we've seen and
Sony.
Yeah, just Sony and all that kind of stuff made think, okay, this is going to be an excellent game. It was just going to be this is going to be my kind of game. And yeah, it was, which was a very pleasant surprise, and absolutely loved it. And kind of like Darby, it's kind of weird thinking this is a number 4 game, but it just is what it is. This is a really good year.
And I'm really starting to think 2018 might be better than 2017 because
it is for me personally.
Horizon was my number 3 last year, and I thought that was crazy that it was number 3. God of War is my number 4 this year, and I'm sorry, but God of War is so much better than Horizon. That's just where we're at right now.
My number 4 is the missing J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories.
Let's go.
Nice. Again, we've talked about this game a lot. This time, fantastic story, great characters, and just this game exceeded my expectations in a way that I was not anticipating.
Hey Jacob, I want to throw this out there. Maybe me and you should get together at some point and just do a little spoiler cast for it.
I think so.
Sounds like there's enough there.
a very important story, and I'm really excited for The Good Life. I think Swery.
Oh yeah, and for me personally, I'm very happy The Good Life is an Xbox Game Pass game, so I'll be able to get that no extra cost day one.
Yeah, Swery is totally a developer to watch out for. Very talented guy.
And you get to be a kitty.
You can be a kid or a dog. It's your choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably be a dog then. I didn't even know that. Okay, so we're back around to me. Number 3, and I'm guessing Jeff is at the same spot. Celeste.
Yep. Sorry, we're doing this.
I think we're doing this. This is one that like I for a lot of this year I was like, is it after I ended up playing Celeste, which was like September, October or something like that when I played it. I was like, so is it Celeste or God of War from between these two? And it's like they're the complete polar opposite games. How the hell do I like judge them? But just the fact that Celeste got me to care this much about like a grueling 2D platformer like that told such a amazing story in also kind of subtle ways, but like it's just like a game like this shouldn't have a story that compelling, but it's like a Super Meat Boy type platformer or something that made me cry. It's like, it's weird, but I love it so much. The art style, how everything changes, and just Madeline, you just wanted good things for her so much. It was like, it kind of reminds me, it's very different, but it kind of reminds me of BoJack Horseman as a character that I'm just like, you are going through the ringer and I want you to be happy. I want good things for you.
Difference is BoJack can be a bad person.
Yes, that's true. BoJack is also you're struggling with, do you deserve to be happy? I don't know.
Yeah, Madeline is like, there's no question here. Right, at least from where we know. But yeah, Celeste is just an excellent game. It's kind of weird for me that, number 4 God of War is kind of thing. It is like a 10 for me. And going forward, it's kind of like, these are like personal 10s to me. In fact, we got so many this year. But yeah, Celeste is like Darby's, and we've been saying it has a really cool story. Someone can very sell. The gameplay is just excellent. Like, this would be a fantastic game even if you just remove the story. The gameplay is just excellent. And while I know you guys didn't use the modifiers, I accidentally turned them on. I didn't use them,
right?
But once you turn them on, you can't turn them off. And I kind of have that little asterisk on my save file, which bothers me, even though I didn't use them. But it's kind of great because there are little modifiers you can do. You can turn on and off anytime you want to. Even if just for one section. There are a bunch of different ones, so that makes the game more accessible for people. I think that's
and I like how it's a simple thing, but I like how they word the accessibility thing where they're like, hey, it's perfectly fine if you need to use this. Like, do not feel bad about it. It's like, this is meant to be like a special experience for you. It's like,
and if you're really hardcore, you can go for all those strawberries. You can go for the B and C sides. You can do you do anything.
Yeah, I mean, just to jump in, just because my own unwillingness stopped me from turning those on, even though I probably should have. This game treats its difficulty in a very fair manner, and I think it's really,
and just
really
every
great.
time I did, there was never really times for me where it's like I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, no, I do know, and I just did this, or I need to figure this out really quick. But it was like, it was never cheap. It was always like. And they stack. You would learn something, and then they would be like, okay, well, now use that to do something else. It was they were always like building on top of each other, and things that you learned in hour 5 would come back into gameplay towards the end. It was definitely by the end, it was like you learned to speak the language of Celeste, of like when to do your double jumps, and then when to do this, when to it's awesome.
My number 3 is Tetris Effect.
Nice.
Again, this game is Tetris, the game we all know.
On acid.
Well, yeah, but it is produced by Tetsuya Mizuguchi, who's the guy who did Rez and Lumines, and it's him putting his own spin on Tetris. And so there's these themes of world peace and like engaging in the human experience. Which I think would be kind of corny in a lot of other things, but the fact that it works so well in this game of Tetris is really this is a weirdly spiritual game, and again it has all the extra modes it has because it has its main story journey mode, and then it has all these extra modes that you can play. Some of them are classic like Marathon, and others are really interesting. Like there's a random one that I was playing where it will drop randomly giant blocks on there and just there's a lot of great features and trappings to this, and again the music and just the overall presentation is so good.
Cool.
It's one of the few VR optional games that I want to experience in VR, just to know, because I think it would really up the atmosphere.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is the only thing that I know that me and Jeff's last two games are the same. They could be opposite order.
I don't think they are.
My number 2 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Same.
Okay, never mind.
Darby, our thing is about the same at the end. Is that I inserted Dragon Quest in there.
Basically, this is, like, yeah, we got to a point where like my Spider-Man and Astrobot were actually higher than yours, but
Because I had Dragon Quest.
yeah, that's the only reason is because you inserted Dragon Quest. Because I think you probably like both of those games more than I like them.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like,
That's the weird thing. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely Spider-Man. I imagine
Definitely
Astrobot too.
Yeah, but there's really not much more to be said about Smash Bros. This is gonna be one of my favorite games of all time, definitively. It's like this. There's something so special about playing that with friends and just having that as your hangout game. I've been playing it since I was like 5 years old, and it's just amazing to see it this good and to see characters like this in it. To have Cloud, to have like my favorite character in the world in there, and then like to have all these different, like the representation in this game is just unreal.
Yep, and we're just getting more, baby. We got Joker
Bring
coming.
on Joker, and especially now that like I was excited in that video when we watched that, but since then I've played about 50 hours of Persona,
So now you have, like,
now
the
I'm
whole
like,
context.
yeah.
And also, Jacob, the big rumor, Dragon Quest here. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, just same thing. It's obviously my favorite multiplayer game of all time. I enjoyed World of Light a lot. It was maybe a little too long for sure, but it had a lot of cool little nods, whether it be from the spirit, just the map, and all that kind of stuff. Like there's one level that's like you're kind of playing Castlevania in a way, and there's one level that's like dedicated to Zelda and all that kind of stuff. And you have little Zelda puzzles. The game all in all is just a lot of fun, and yeah, like Darby, it's gonna definitely go down as one of my favorite games of all time. You say the same for these last couple games, but yeah.
Yes.
And my number 2 is Monster Hunter World.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's high. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I played this game for like a good part of like the first half of the year. And this is the first Monster Hunter game I played too.
Yeah, do something to get through that video game in history class, right?
Well, yeah, and just this is the first one that I've played, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. And I'll be honest, like the first few hours of Monster Hunter World were confusing and intimidating. Like there's so many menus and items. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff does.
Right.
But then like I went onto forums and I watched videos and streams of people who were familiar with the series, and just that feeling of like diving in and learning as like a community, like a very, a teacher-student kind of relationship in that game is just, it's just a feeling that I really liked, and very few games I feel like impart that sort of feeling. And just, yeah, mastering those mechanics just felt so good. And there's a lot of, I think, gameplay features of Monster Hunter that can be off-putting to a lot of people, but I really dug them. Like the whole, you don't see the health bar on the monster.
Yeah, you just gotta tell the tells like, oh, it's weakening or whatever, or you can tell, oh, you got a milestone because it's running away to a different area.
Legitimately, that game would be so much worse if there was health bars and stuff. Like, and that's part of it.
Yeah, and just getting into that mind space of like enjoying the hunt and like feeling, and even like the monster runs away. I know like a lot of people didn't like that, but you need that breather to
oh no, we're like when Darby and I play with Alex and Olivia, we always have a sigh of relief. Oh, good, it's going away.
Put down the heal, the health boosters, do the like.
Sharpen the weapons.
Yeah, because that's such a good moment of reflection. It's like, okay, like my ass was getting handed to me. Like, what can I do better? Or like, what's a different approach?
And it makes you feel like you're really hunting this monster.
Exactly.
And especially like you have it runs back to its nest or something, and you're like, oh, this is like where it lives, and it's asleep now. They try and
yeah, and that
lay
feeling
down the traps.
Yeah, and just like that feeling of like technically you do a lot of grinding in that game, but like it never felt like grinding. You're always mastering the movements of this monster, and you're always working to craft better gear. It's just such a great feeling and like I guess progression in that game. And I just love it so much. I'm gonna be playing more of it when the expansion comes out in the fall.
Yeah.
Really wish we could play 5 players so you could be with us. It's just like we're like progressing at the exact same point, so usually we're all 4 playing, but we need to get you back in just with whenever it's just 3 of us, especially. But.
Yeah, and the beauty too is that like if you get tired of playing this one weapon, there's like 19 other weapons you can pick from, and they are very different from each other.
Yeah, it's a different game. All right, mine and Jeff's number 1, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, baby.
over Super Smash Bros. For Jeff Mayo as well, which is kind of insane.
I mean, up to a month before it came out, I figured I was never going to play this game.
This very well. I mean, I need to let it ruminate and stuff, but this has a good chance of being, if not my favorite game of all time, my second favorite. Like Final Fantasy VII very well might be the only game that's above. I legitimately love this game. Like I'm probably going to replay this entire game at some point in the next few years just to see how it goes again, because I really, really, really love this game. I did not expect to be that enraptured by the story and just the realism, the gameplay, like even the mechanics that everyone else hates, I love. It's just
like I read all this stuff about people's problems with mechanics. Some of it's fair. Some people use it like, oh, this is a terrible game. Like I don't think it ever got that bad. I don't know. I just can't relate to any of that.
Yeah,
a lot of the people's main problems with it.
I mean, it has some of the open world jank things that you can understand. I get that, but the actual systems and how it works, it just always made sense to me to hold L2 and like talk to people, interact with the world, and I felt like it always interacted with me the way that I was putting it back in. It made sense to me, and usually like I was worried about the realism mechanics and the having to like wash your horse and like change your clothes because you're getting dirty and all this other stuff. I worried about that, but like once I was in there, it all just made sense. It all just like it really. I wanted that. Like I wanted me like I'm leaving my camp to go hunt something. I need to take it back to camp right now because I have this carcass on my horse. Of course, if I go run off somewhere, I'm going to lose that carcass at some point, or it's going to deteriorate or something like that. Like that was an event. I'm leaving the camp and I'm coming back before nightfall, or or if I'm not, I need to find a good place to camp. Like I liked that kind of stuff. That even like that kind of stuff when I compare it to even like The Witcher. And so I don't want this for every RPG, but like I think about traveling around in the wilderness doesn't really mean a whole lot in The Witcher when nothing's going to happen to you and everything. But in Red Dead, it means a lot more. Your character's going to look ragged when he comes back if he didn't like prepare and do this stuff. So I love it. Can't say
it's
enough
an
about
engrossing kind of experience.
Yeah. And I get how that can, like, if that doesn't latch on to you, then it's just very tedious.
Yeah.
But like all of those like realism mechanics and immersive mechanics just hit me so well in every part of it, and just every act of that game is just so different, so cool. Just how that progresses. It's like watching an old Western movie, but you get to spend so much more time with these characters than you do in a Western movie or something like that. And that's part of what, like, they're not in a hurry to have these arcs finish, which makes the arc stronger, Yep. What's that number one, Jacob?
Number one is Return of the Obra Dinn.
Yeah. Figured.
That is, out of all the games on my list, that is the one that I would give a 10 out of 10. It is like the best investigation game since like Her Story, and it's one of the like this is from the guy who made Papers, Please, which is an awesome
amazing game.
This is very different. It is if people don't know, the ship is set in the 1800s. The ship mysteriously returned to port. You're actually an insurance claims adjuster, so your job is to go on the ship, find out what happened to people, and so the insurance company can pay out to recipients, which is a very weird and unique setup to the game. And so you investigate people's death by using the pocket watch to go in, and you have to identify the name, the cause of death, the name and the cause of death, and by like who or what, depending, or by accident, for all 60 members of the crew. And it becomes like this kind of mental Sudoku kind of way, because you're using every deductive technique in the you're using hard evidence, like circumstantial evidence, like association, logic, process of elimination, because fates are confirmed in groups of 3. So you're like, okay, well, I know these two definitively. I know how this one person died, but I don't know his name. So, but I can kind of, I know, maybe like his position or where he's from, and so I can kind of figure out who he is depending on if it's confirmed or not. And it's just incredibly, it's a game that I wish I could wipe from my memory and experience all over awesome. Again. Just so.
Did you play it with Celeste?
I did,
because I've heard a lot of people say that it's a really fun game to play with someone else because there's so many like logic things where it's like, so what do you think? Like,
we were constantly talking back to each other, and like she would pitch like a hypothesis, and I'd be like, I don't know about that. I don't know if we have the right evidence, and then she'd be like, just try it. and I'd try it, and it would be right.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is a game that is...
God,
Why are they so
Yeah.
smart?
and this is a game that, like, mechanically, it's very simple. So it's a game that you can show to anyone. Like, I could show this to my grandfather, and he would be super into it.
That's
Which
also
is, not a thing that I think a lot of games can claim to do.
I could say that about Florence too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I'm not a master detective or anything like that, but me and my girlfriend, we were able to solve the entire game by ourselves without using any outside sources. So it is also very accessible. Like I felt like it never got too difficult. It does challenge you at parts, and you have to think in a very abstract way that a lot of games don't ask you to think.
Right.
In a way. And art style, the music just elevates this game. Incredibly unique. Lucas Pope is a brilliant game maker, and I am on board with whatever he makes.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, congratulations. You Return to Oberdin has gone way up on my must play list now after this podcast. Right?
It's actually only on PC. It's $20, but it's not graphically demanding.
You can run it on anything probably.
Yeah, I ran it on my laptop.
Yeah,
it's not that powerful.
At least you have no problem.
No, yeah, we have pretty good laptops. So.
And I would say it'll run like gameplay time. Mine was about 10 hours.
Okay.
So.
Alrighty. Well, Will, do you have any?
I'm good.
Well, I'm guessing God of War was your favorite game of the year.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think God of War is probably my favorite game of the year. But that being said, I'm only less than 10 hours probably into Red Dead, and the more I play it, the more, more into the world I feel. So.
Yeah, I hope y'all get it. I mean, absolutely no pressure because a lot of people don't, and it's something like even if you get into it later on, it's something that you have to like really sink into it. But.
Yeah, but I definitely feel what you were saying with how you feel like every minuscule task actually makes sense in the world.
Yeah,
and I wasn't expecting that. So something like, I'm going to cook before I go out, and like that makes sense. I need some food, or I'm going to change my clothes because it's hot here.
And it's just like
ridiculous.
And the biggest compliment was that even when I was in, I really wish there was a game called. Could I just keep saying arbitrarily 80 hours because that's just what it felt like. But it might have been less than that. But even that far into the game, that was just part of playing Red Dead. Was doing these things, and it just made the world feel huge and awesome and interactive in an awesome way. Well, that was a lot of fun, you guys. I'm sorry it went way longer than I expected, but that was
not what I expected.
That was
I was thinking about 2 hours.
So, I always undershoot it, but that was a whole lot of fun. Man, that was a good year for video games. Well, thank you guys so much for checking it out. Go. Will's article should be posting on Monday.
Yeah,
not mine.
Sorry, my article.
I am 70 years old, so I forget people's names.
Yeah, it's about what I've said, throughout this thing. So if you listen to this, you might not get much more out of the article, but it's there for archival purposes.
Check it out anyway. Yeah, it'll be a cool thing, and I guess check out Jeff playing RE2 and blinding me with his laser pointer.
I guess we need to play Knack soon.
Yes, we do need to get you guys on that.
Yeah, we need to schedule that.
I was thinking, I was hoping we could do it like when we did this, but it's obviously not gonna work. But at some point, y'all have to be together. You can start and he can do some, but we gotta get that going because the champ, right here. All right, thank you guys so much. Bye.